champion of the world.
Nuthouse is Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado good boy. Rosado is good boy.
They have become a massive international superstar. It's as simple as that.
I eat your ass on a lot, bitch. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me. Put out.
I'm Shannon Briggs. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black dude the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what his abilities are. I can't see that Golovkin has anything like Christopher's speed, his power, his punching ability, his hand speed, his foot movement. I don't see that from a calculating point of view. I don't see that he has anything like that. So then it's going to come down to heart.
You know, I spoke to Joe Gallagher, they don't want to fight Carl Frampton. And the bottom line is, you know, no disrespect to Ross Brendan, these guys aren't good enough to face Carl Frampton.
I'm the best heavyweight champion in the world. I'm half WBC with me. I'm undefeated champion. Undisputed champion. I want good next.
He's got my Dino Rival nucleic acid.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
I love boxing sound, it's as simple as that.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 257th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings. Some classics there in the old intro, which we've dug out for you. I hope you enjoyed that one. Joining me this week, we have Ben Faruqi, Donny Baseball, Andy Patterson, and Ozzy Smith. If anybody wants to jump on, give me a shout. We shall get you on. Hope you all had a good break over Christmas, New Year's, all those type of things. We're back with a bang and ready to go. Plenty of stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit of Tyson Fury, hopefully getting his license back. Amir Khan's return. Bit of Flanagan. Joshua Parker has been announced, as you all know, this morning, so we should have plenty to be getting on with. First of all, let's recap some of the stuff over the Christmas period. We haven't really seen a lot ourselves, so what I'll do is I'll go over some of the results and some of the fights that happened, and if anybody wants to join in and say anything about any of the particular cards, you can do. First of all, on Saturday the 6th of January in Accra, Ghana, quite the occasion, this one. They look like they're having a good time as Isaac Dogbo, 17-0, fought in London a bit actually, based in the UK. I think he boxes an amateur in the UK as well, super bantamweight, knocked out Cesar Juarez in the 5th round of their contest. Going over to Denmark, scraping the barrel here, Friday the 5th, Lalenga Mok, must be about 50 odd now, remember him fighting David Hay. He beat Dmitry Chudinov in a bit of an upset result, all things said and done. And then over on Sunday the 31st of December in Japan, Ryoichi Taguchi defeated Milan Melindo for a couple of super, I think, light flyweight titles it was, and then Sho Kimura defeated Toshiyuki Igarashi. More Andy's type of thing there. Shingo Wake was on the card, so was Hiroto Kayaguchi. Does anybody have anything they want to say about the stuff that was over Christmas and New Year's before we move on to the discussion points, guys?
Nothing really, Steve, except for the fact that your pronunciation of those Asian names is on point as usual.
Thanks, Donny. That was just straight off the bat for you.
Suppose we've got to mention Inoue moving up in weight now after what's it, 6-7 defences, his WBO title. Surgical at the body as always, left hook. It's a bit of a shame he didn't get the big fights, I suppose, unification fights. I see he's been caught a bit of shit as well. A lot of people kind of shitting on his title reign. Understandable, I suppose, but at the end of the day, some people forget that he was off. I think he was out for about a year, I think. He had 2 mandatories back-to-back and that, so step up in weight, I suppose he might look at the winner of Yamanaka against Nera rematch. So,
wait, when are we going to get Inoue versus Sar Rungavesi? Because I mean, obviously the super fight that was being set up was the fight with Chocolatito, but now that Rungavesi's beat him twice, the second one being by a convincing knockout. I mean, I think that's the fight to make for Inoue, right?
No, Rungavesi's fighting Estrada next anyway, so. I'm trying to remember what else I saw in the Japanese cards. I think I might have seen Ken Shiro, but I drank too much at Christmas and New Year, so I'm not really a good memory there now. I've got Taguchi and Melindo still to watch as well. I've got that downloading stuff, but it was absolute carnage, wasn't it? In Ghana, like it was Isaac Dogbo, just bludgeoning that guy fucking almost to death, man. Place was going absolutely crazy. And probably the only thing I could probably add actually as well is Luenga Mok likely to get a top 10 WBA ranking off the back of that victory off Chudinov.
Yeah, it's strange, Dogbo, that he hasn't been picked up by a top promoter. I know that he has a bit of talent. He worked with the McGuigans briefly. I've heard, I can't substantiate this at all, but I have heard in the past that his father, who handles him, shall we say, is maybe a little bit difficult to deal with. Like I said, I don't know if that's true or not. If anybody wants to correct me, feel free. But that could be the reason why he hasn't signed with a major promoter. Other than that, he seems to have the goods. Maybe it's the fact that he's at a lower weight and people don't want to touch him. I can only speculate. Ozzy, putting you on the spot with this one, I'm afraid, but just before Christmas, we actually neglected to mention a fight. Jeff Horn against Gary Corcoran out in Australia. I think we'll mention it now, if you don't mind. Corcoran gave a good account of himself. He did okay. There was cuts. The heads were flying in. It was a pretty rough and ready affair. I think it was on a Wednesday afternoon. We saw that one. If you'd like to say a word about that, where both men go now after that fight, maybe possible fights with the likes of Crawford, a Pacquiao rematch, maybe even Bradley Skeet for Horn. What do you remember about that one? It was quite a while ago now.
It was, yeah. So I watched that in when I was in work, actually, and it was okay. Corcoran did exactly what he did. He was trying to be really rough, aggressive. As you say, there was plenty of cuts, which we both said. Corcoran had a real bad, and I think from memory, it led to the stoppage. He was never really in it of sorts. I think he might have had a couple of rounds on some of the cards. Horn was the much better, as expected, really, because prior to this, Gary Corcoran's best win was a split decision over Larry Eckendale. So in terms of moving forward, it was a garbage defense from Horn. It was obviously a bit of cash before Christmas, and then I've seen reports that he's signed the big one now with Terence Crawford, which will take place. I think it was for Vegas this year. So I think we'll be seeing that'll be the last time he'll be keeping hold of the WBO world title. For Corcoran, he can drop straight back down to British level, which is what he's at. There was nothing wrong with him taking that shot. Why not? He's probably been offered an excellent purse to travel. It's an experience. It's just more of a farce of the rankings again. Corcoran's nowhere near world level, but he was put in there because he won one of these fringe intercontinental titles. He got the opportunity. He lost, stepped back down, and go and have a couple of decent dust-ups with domestically, because that's what everybody likes to see. For Horn, say he'll be in with Crawford, and I can't see him doing anything to Crawford. I think he'll be well overmatched, and it'll be interesting to see how he makes the weight. I believe he was really gaunt at the weight, and he looked awful for it. And I believe he needed to drop something like 9 to 10 pounds in the last 24 hours prior to the weigh-in or something like that. So that's a lot
bad,
of weight.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot of weight to lose before the weigh-in, and he looked awful for it, absolutely appalling. And you think maybe someone with a bit more ability may have taken advantage, if he was starting to gas and things like that. So if he's going to make the way he did against Crawford, it's just going to be his own downfall.
Donnie, did you want to say something?
Talking about fighting Mundine there.
Yeah, the story coming out of that fight was just that how bad. This is a guy that beat Manny Pacquiao, and I think he legitimately beat Pacquiao. A lot of other people would disagree. Steve, I know you do agree with me, but I was going to say I think the story coming out of that fight was how bad he looked at the weight and how difficult, because he is a big man at the weight, and so I thought the story was how difficult it was for him to make the weight. Maybe he didn't take Corcoran that seriously, and maybe he didn't train the way he should have for the fight. But I don't care if he makes the weight comfortably next time or not. He's going to lose to Terence Crawford. But yeah, I just thought the weight was something that should be mentioned. But Ozzy went ahead and mentioned that anyways.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just saying that they were seriously talking about Mundine against Horn and that. I mean, that was crazy. I don't know what weight that was going to happen. I mean, no way Mundine was going to come down to light middleweight. But we've got to give him kudos as well. Step up the fight, Crawford as well. It's a good step up. So it's good chance to prove himself again.
Well, you should mention Anthony Mundine there, Andy. He's fighting on Wednesday, the 17th of January, I've noticed on the BoxRec schedule for the vacant WBO Oriental middleweight title against a guy called Tommy Brown, who's 35, 6-2. So Mundine, who must be well over 40 by now, rumbles on.
He's riddled with injuries and that as well, mate. I mean, I don't know why the guy's still fighting, actually, in all honesty. As you say, he's well in his 40s minimum. Trading on the likes of, beating the likes of Shane Mosley in 7 rounds or whatever it was. Just tragic, man. Okay, I mean, he's transcended, I suppose, 2 sports and that, but in game he's due. He's made a lot of money, I suppose, in his neck of the woods, but he's just awful to watch sometimes. He's way past his obviously he's way past his peak and that. He's just trading on his name, basically.
Yep, agree with that. Ben's on the call. Good to have you back with us, Ben, our iTunes guru. Any word on Horn, Pacquiao, Crawford, any of that type of stuff before we move on?
Yeah, I just think it's a bit convenient how everything sort of played out for Top Rank with this situation. Pacquiao lost a controversial decision, whether you think he won or not. Then they talked about the rematch, but it never happened. Defense of his title, got a bit extra cash, and now he's going to fight against Crawford, and we all know he's going to lose. Crawford's come up from 140, where he was the super champion, so he gets that. He can apply to be the mandatory challenger, which I think is a stupid rule, because it means that other guys who've legitimately got their place in the WBO rankings don't get their shot. And I would have preferred to have seen Matisse versus Horn. I think it would have been a more exciting fight than watching Crawford annihilate Horn. It seems like a pointless fight. But it's just worked out for Top Rank. And then Bob Arum's just going to throw in Pacquiao against someone like Alvarado, which we've sort of seen suggested. And then when Crawford wins, Pacquiao can probably bow out with that fight, which will make everybody, especially Bob Arum, a lot of money. So I think it's quite convenient that everything's worked out, for Bob Arum there. I think that's the way sort of Bob's hoping it'll pan out. But like I've said before, Manny Pacquiao and Michael Counts, they do what they want. They don't really, they're not really at that stage anymore where they have to listen to what Bob Arum says. So if anything better comes along, like potentially a fight with Amir Khan, where he can draw it out and maybe do 1 or 2 fights, I think we'll see something like that happen instead.
Yeah, you make a good point there, Ben. Actually, it has worked out quite conveniently, has it? Because you've got Pacquiao come out of it and they can sort of say, oh, well, that's what happens when you box away from home, just sort of write that one off, and Pacquiao comes out with enough credibility that he can just move on. And Horn also comes out as the victor, so he's got they're split off in different directions. Crawford can now take the title off Horn, so it has worked out very conveniently. Just changing tack, Ben, but staying with you. Saturday, the 21st of April, we see the return of the man, Amir King Khan. Liverpool in the Echo Arena. He signed a 3-fight deal with Eddie. What do you think about this? Any potential opponents you think he could go in with? If you were matchmaking, Ben, who would you put him in with? And overall thoughts about Amir's return?
Yeah, I knew he was going to go with Eddie for a while, and I know he was speaking to Frank and ITV2, and Eddie's even suggested that he was talking to other promoters from abroad. I'm not sure who they were. Eddie's given some potential opponents. He's given Josecito Lopez, Adrian Granados, Sammy Vasquez. There are a few of the names he's given. Chris Van Hayden's thrown his name into the mix. I personally, when I've spoken to the team in the past and they've sort of talked to me about opponents, I've suggested people like Miguel Vasquez. Spoke to Tommy about it once, and he said, Miguel Vasquez can't crack an egg, but he'll give Amir rounds. I think that's the sort of opponent that Amir needs now. One name that I do think now is a very, very likely contender is Phil LaGreco. He's been posting up all sorts of photoshopped images on Twitter and sort of trying to take
Errol Spence, didn't they?
Yeah, he got stopped. I think that's the only time he's been stopped. It was by Errol Spence, and I think he lost to Sean Porter as well. They're the 2 big names that I remember him fighting. But I think that's the name they'll probably go with there. He's not got a massive KO ratio. He's it's not something that Amir needs to worry about in that sort of respect. I think he's someone who Amir can easily do away with, and it'll help Amir build confidence, which I think is what he needs now. He's been out of the ring for some time. I don't think his head is where it needs to be at. He's had a lot of obviously personal situations going on, but I think if he can do away convincingly with this next opponent, it'll put him in the right frame of mind for the next two fights. And I think the plan really is to have this one fight to be a confidence builder and then have two big fights. I don't think they're going to mess around in the second fight. And one of them, I think, is going to be a pay-per-view. A lot of people think it's going to be Brook. I personally don't think we're going to see the Brook fight in these three fights. If the Brook fight does come, it will be after these three fights, I think.
Like the carrot at the end of the three fights sort of thing.
Yeah, and I know Kel's saying I'm not going to fight after this year, etc., but I don't really buy into that. I think it's a big game of chess between all three of them. Eddie's sort of saying to Kel, after the Liverpool fight, you run in the ring and sort of create a commotion. Then we can say to Amir, well, everybody wants this fight. It's worth so much money. And Eddie can come out with his statistics and projections on pay-per-view figures and try and offer Amir good money. Whereas Amir's hoping he can do well enough in this first fight that he can tempt someone like Manny Pacquiao to come out and fight him in the second fight, sometime probably after Ramadan, which I think is before the beginning of summer this year. So, maybe September time, which will probably fit into Pacquiao's schedule. And I think that's what Amir probably wants to do. And then the third fight, he's going to want to get either revenge against Garcia or try and take on someone like Thurman. And they're all tough fights for him, but I don't think he wants that. Well, not that he doesn't want that Brook fight. I think he'd take that Brook fight, but I don't think it's going to happen in these three fights at all. I think he's got other plans, and I think Eddie's probably going to play the chess and see whichever way he can make the most money. But yeah.
Yeah, discussion for another night, but I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Keith Thurman in the ring again. He seems to be that kind of character. Donny, put that to one side. Tell me about Amir Khan. It'll be just shy of 2 years that he's been out of the ring when he returns. It's going to be a rust shedding exercise, the first one, isn't it? The second one, hopefully, will be more of a challenge.
Why ask him, by the way? Why ask him? You know what he's going to say.
I'm interested to hear his valued opinion.
Wait. No, Andy, what am I going to say?
Are you going to talk about how you're the actual father of the fucking child or something like that,
I'm a fan of a child?
Father of a child. You've been hiding behind the couch again. AJ style.
No. What I'm going to say is this, is that, first of all, boxing is better when Amir Khan is in it. You can say whatever you want about him. He's an idiot in a lot of ways. He brings his personal life into the Twitter sphere, and is really he's the most self-destructive fighter in terms of social media than probably anybody that I could possibly think of. But the thing is that whenever he is fighting, I have to watch. It's appointment viewing, and I can't miss it. And I think that is true for most people, even the people that hate his guts. They do tune in because they want to see him knocked out, and the people that love him, like me and Ben, Tommy, they want to see him fight. Yes, the first fight is obviously going to have to be a tune-up fight against a fighter who can't punch too hard, like a Miguel Vasquez. That would be a perfect tune-up opponent. I think the second opponent should probably
be... shit.
What?
Vasquez is a shit tune-up opponent. He's a fucking lightweight. You're going to ask him to come up another 7 pounds after fighting Josh Taylor to get his cunt kicked in?
Yeah, but didn't he just fight at 140?
But you're asking him to put another 7 pounds. The guy would get crucified.
So what? The guy's been out of the ring for 2 years. What do you expect him to do and go and fight?
No fight lightweights. Has just had his cunt kicked in like fucking what? 3 months ago?
All I'm saying is that he's going to have a tune-up fight in April, and then the next fight should probably be against Adrian Broner, who I think is a credible name-brand opponent, who at the same time is really stylistically perfect for Khan, because while he is talented and he is fast and he does have power, that power really hasn't carried up so much to 147. So I think that especially with Broner's wide-footed stance, he's a bit stationary, in the way that he fights. And Khan, who is fleet of foot and has really fast hand speed, I think that actually he could beat somebody like Adrian Broner, who is a name brand opponent, basically is kind of tailor made for Khan. I think that would be the next thing, unless he can get Manny Pacquiao, but he probably won't. And then the third fight would be Brook. And I think what Eddie will do, Eddie Hearn will dangle the third fight as Kell Brook, and basically he'll say, well, if you re-sign with us, then we'll put a rematch clause in there, and we'll get you Kell Brook in case you lose, and you can make a second payday there again. I think that's what they'll do. So I think the next three opponents for Amir Khan, in my opinion, will probably be Vasquez, Adrian Broner, and then Kell Brook, and then a potential rematch with Kell Brook if he loses. And if he doesn't lose, then then the sky's the limit for him, because he'll have won a grudge match that people have been waiting for a very long time.
Andy Hamir will be hoping that he has an easier time of it than the last time he came back to UK shores. I was remembering that 2013 scrap. It was an excellent fight, actually, in Sheffield with Julio Diaz. I brought up the scores there. It really was a close fight. I knew that he had his problems and he got knocked down. I didn't realise 114, 113, 115, 113, and 115, 112. It really was razor thin, that one.
If I remember, as I said, rightly, mate, he was struggling all night in that fight. He just got dropped early. One point as well. What's the point of having this fight in Liverpool? I mean, is it on undercard? Is he going to be headlining it? What's the point of having this fight in Liverpool?
He'll be headlining, won't he?
He'll be headlining.
I think the only choices they got given. Sorry, I think the only choices they got given really were the O2 card in March. And this one, they need to come back by April, and I think they were the two choices they got given. And as far as I'm aware, right now it's not a headlining fight, but I might be wrong. It could be changed to that depending on what happens with the other fights. As far as I'm aware, it's the Butler Solis, I think, is it fight that's going to be on the undercard of. I think it'll be the co-main on that.
I'm not expecting anything great anyway. Obviously, as you say, he's been out since getting brutally iced. Donny, remember him getting iced, mate, back in May 2016 against Saul Canelo Alvarez? What a knockout that was, mate. So again, I'm not expecting anything great shakes and stuff. Sammy Vargas, I wouldn't be surprised with, or Vasquez, whatever his name was. Other than that, I can't think of any other names. Granados, I suppose, would be decent enough. Other than that, he says he's going to come back. He needs to kind of obviously show what he's still got left, which I don't think is much. He is the definition of what I call a semi-fucking pro fighter, basically. He's semi-retired. So we'll see how he gets on with this one. I dare say I'll tune in to see how he gets on. I'm not really going to make any claims one way or the other and stuff like that. We all know he is what he is. He's got fast hands and he's got a glass jaw. So I still believe he would give the top end guys pull a wee bit of bother. It would depend where he's at. But a fully fit Keith Thurman, I think, would knock him out. Pacquiao, even at this point, I think he would probably maybe knock him out as well. Garcia, I don't know about that one. Spence, I think, would crucify him. And we all know what Crawford's going to do to him. So again, as I say, you need to kind of take it easy, see how he's going. But if he gets, if he gets stopped again or another bad knockout, and that, he needs to call it quits, because there's only so much you can take in that, and you didn't want to end up with some sort of kind of brain damage, and you got kids and that, family to look after, sort of stuff. So he needs to chuck it after this.
Fast hands and a glass jaw, Ozzy. It does equate to an exciting fighter, and that's what Khan is. I do enjoy watching him, and I do enjoy his fights, because you never know if he's going to knock someone out or get knocked out himself. And what about him and Eddie joining up? Strange bedfellows in boxing, but money talks, and it seems to be a mutually beneficial agreement.
Exactly what I was going to say. Money talks, and you feel now Khan is only there to make big money. I'm sure Frank could have offered a considerable amount of cash as well, but ultimately Khan's gone with Hearn because I guess he's more of a safe bet. He can potentially, he's built the pay-per-view platform already, something he can give. The Brook fight is always there. I know Ben was saying that he doesn't think that'll be in the plan, but they can kind of fall back on it, can't they? If it's not going to be there, they can stick that on in December as the pay-per-view, something like that. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? I think you've heard the first fight back. I think we can all accept it's not going to be any world beater. Then after that, it's going to be interesting to watch. I look forward to it. It's a shame that it clashes with Carl Frampton and Ito Donaire. It really is, because you're asking people to choose between two decent fights. A decent fight in Frampton Donaire and Khan coming back, which naturally does have interest behind him. And it's just a shame that they do clash, but he's exciting. He's still got fast hands. The best thing he did was going into the jungle, because he cut a load of weight. I think he came out of the jungle at like 145 pounds. Probably not seen that weight in a long time. And he can essentially build on that. He's not ballooned up again. I think he flies out to America tomorrow or something like that to start camp. So I'll look forward to it. Let's see what he's like, and fingers crossed he's still got something left and can offer something at the top end of the welterweight division.
Ozzy, one person who was supposed to be fighting on the undercard, but he got ceremoniously dropped. Apparently, he was going to get dropped anyway off this Liverpool card. Is O'Hara Davis? Has he been dropped by Matchroom? Has he not? We don't know. He's tweeted tonight saying, "I was not dropped. IFL interview in the next few days to further your understanding on the situation." What's going on, Ozzy, with O'Hara Davis?
I've heard quite a few things about this. Now, I've essentially, the way it works with the Matchroom lads, unless you are one of the big guys, so for example, Joshua, etc., they don't give out multi-fight deals, as in, like 2 to 3 years. They're all usually rolling contracts or 2 fights, something like that. And they do that because they know a lot of people want to be with them. And essentially, it's a case of, if you want to walk, you can do, but you're potentially severing your ties. Now, apparently, this was the situation with O'Hara Davis. Now, I've been told that essentially he was on the Liverpool undercard, but albeit in nothing essentially really major. They've pulled him off that. Now, I think the original plan, before it all it really snowballed, was they were going to look at putting him on in London. Now, anyway, it's since developed that there is a bit of, I think it is quite serious from the Matchroom side, and they are looking to get rid. Now, I've been told that O'Hara Davis is looking to leave the Sims gym, which is the Matchroom gym. So in that sense, there's a chance that he will walk from Matchroom, and by his tweets tonight, he's obviously pissed off because they've thrown him under the bus completely. Let's be honest. I understand the how serious he is, but he never said. All he said was in the favourite paper in the Sun. This was aimed at Tommy Coyle, and this was because the Sun accused somebody who was associated with Coyle's gym from stealing. So I think it was a sly dig at that. It's naive from him, very naive, and then he didn't help himself with some of the stuff he put after that. But he's been made a scapegoat, in my opinion. Conor Benn, he made fun of Robin Deakin about his disability. So Conor Benn was making fun of the disabled. What did Matchroom do? Naff all. Anthony Joshua, claiming that blacks are the supreme race. Completely swept under the carpet, not a whisper. O'Hara Davis, completely made a scapegoat. Anyway, now I've been told that essentially...
Bellew kicking up fuck as well in press conferences.
Sorry. Yeah, but Bellew, Dillian White, everybody. If your face fits with Eddie Hearn, he won't bat an eyelid. If you rough him up, which, bear in mind, pre-Josh Taylor, O'Hara Davis was the best thing since sliced bread. He lost. Yeah, he had a couple of, I think he had a couple of fights come back. But then he's not top property. I don't think he sells many tickets. Anyway, I've been told that essentially there's a chance he could sign with Frank Warren, and he will fight on a card in London in April, and he will be looking to go with Lawrence Okoli's trainer, and potentially, I think he's something to do with Anthony Yard. Something to do with Anthony Yard as well, perhaps. Not too sure. I know Yard and O'Hara Davis are very, very good friends. So that's an interesting one. And I've also been told that Davis may even link up with the lads at MTK as well in a management deal, which again, we all know that MTK have very strong links with the Warren stable at the moment. So this interview is going to be interesting, and it might shed a bit more light from the word that I've had from down south.
Joe Gallagher just broke into your house, has
Hey.
He has actually, yeah. So I'll have to go and sort him out.
Andy, just while we're talking about O'Hara Davis and all of his connections and whatever, Joey at Master Mode has asked a question. He's asking about this Charlie Sims character. He said, does the panel know what Charlie Sims' credentials are apart from collecting 10%? His actions in this whole O'Hara Davis thing make me concerned for other fighters under his management. He seems to be Davis's manager. Tony Sims' son, I think. He's one of these young Essex guys. Any idea, Andy, about this character?
None, mate. I didn't really pay attention to that kind of side of the business. I suppose maybe I should. Maybe more often. A lot of people I do see kind of going about kind of comment and stuff. I'm not really in a position to kind of say anything about it. I don't know really. I don't even know the guy really. No, honestly, apart from I see a couple of tweets and that. I take he's some sort of manager and that, so he'll be taking his 10% or whatever it is, maybe slightly less. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think, again, Davis is a wanker. Okay, everybody knows that. But at the same time, as you push the kid that much, that quick, that soon, right? I remember when he got the WBC ranking, Eddie Hearn was giving him all the props and the tweets under the day and all that sort of stuff. Keep it up. Up came a Taylor fight. Just keep it up. Just keep talking bullshit. Promote yourself. 6-figure payday, which was bullshit. But and it's just, I really don't know what the fake outrage was all about. Something to do with, was it because he was mentioned in the Sun newspaper? Was it something to do with Hillsborough? I have no idea. I think I said that type of stuff. It was like kind of like fake news to me. I didn't really kind of really pay attention to it. I wasn't kind of mock outrage to it. Again, I just think the guy's just been made a scapegoat for whatever reason, and I think Hearn's no fully stupid about boxing, man. He must know what he sees sometimes, and he must see that Davis, okay, he's a decent enough fighter, but he's no any great shake. I would be surprised if he won a world title, and I'd be deeply surprised if as far as he's going to go would be a European title, regardless.
Ben, while we've got you on, actually, for your annual appearance, as you said earlier, not that I want to end up down a black hole here, but regarding the Amir Khan, I was looking up and down his record earlier on today, and I was going back to 2011, the loss to Lamont Peterson, who's obviously fighting Errol Spence next week. I can never understand for the life of me how Peterson Khan was never turned into a no contest. I was wondering, as our resident Amir Khan expert, if you had any information or any opinions on this. We had the Hat Man, we had the referee at the time, I think it was Joseph Cooper, strange performance, and then Peterson getting popped afterwards for PED implants or something. Any idea, Ben? Why was that never turned into a no decision or something?
I was thinking about that today myself, and it's something that the team has never fully explained it to me. I think I might hear the story one day, probably when Amir is retired. In fact, I was thinking about asking them about it this week. And I like Lamont Peterson as a fighter, but that fight and what happened is the one thing that still bugs me, and I sort of take it out on how much I like Lamont Peterson now. And I really don't know why it wasn't turned into a no contest, but it should have been. There were so many strange things that happened that night. Hopefully one day we'll find out. I'm just, to be honest with you, with Lamont Peterson, I'm looking forward to what happens next week. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I like Lamont Peterson. I like his style. He sort of swarms fighters. The only thing I'm thinking about him is how well he'll fare against Errol Spence. Last time he was out against a southpaw, it was Diaz, which a lot of people thought was a bit of a robbery. I know a lot of people scored it wide for Diaz. A lot of people had it quite close, but I know some of the rounds were quite close in it. But I think it'll be a good fight this weekend.
Donnie, you were jumping in there. Were you going to confirm that you were indeed the man in the hat?
Well, no, on the contrary. I mean, let's all be honest. I mean, Amir Khan got jobbed in that fight. I mean, first of all, the referee took away 2 points away from him. Wait, no, he did. He did, though. I mean, got totally screwed. I mean, he was
Yeah, but you still got to take the points off, Donny. If the referee takes the points off, the Ducks points, you got to take it off. And he lost the fight 114, 112 on his scorecard.
In Holyfield Bo or whatever, Holyfield was constantly pushing Bo off of him because Bo liked to fight inside, and he pushed him back all the time. Okay, nobody ever took any points off for pushing. I mean, who's ever even heard of taking points off for pushing? I mean, it's ridiculous. The referee should control the fight or whatever. And if a guy's trying to get somebody off of him or whatever because he's holding him, of course he's going to push them. That's completely ridiculous. 1 point off was enough, but 2 points was egregious. In addition, he went over there and he fought in some guy's hometown because at that time he was young, he was brash, he was full of piss and vinegar. He wanted to get all the titles, and he was like, I'm going to go over, I'm going to fight some guy in his own backyard, and I'll still beat the hell out of him. And even with the point deductions, in all reality, he should have won. And then, it came out later after the fact that, he was taking testosterone enhancements, and the IBF never stripped him. Basically, he walked into Washington, D.C. that night. He was behind the 8 ball even when that fight even started, and that was disgraceful. And I would love to see Amir get his justice against Lamont Peterson because he's a better fighter. And I thought that fight was disgraceful. And like Ben said, we'll probably never know the story as to why or whatever. But there was a lot of really nefarious elements in that fight. And in my mind, that doesn't even count as a loss for Amir.
Donny, I know you have plenty to say about Tyson Fury. We'll come to that shortly. I want to stick around these kind of weight classes. We're talking Khan. Let's talk a bit of Kell Brook, Aussie. He's fighting Sergei Rabchenko on his light middleweight debut, super welterweight debut, whatever you want, on March the 3rd in the Sheffield Arena. Gamal Yafai is fighting for the WBC International Super Bantamweight title against Gavin McDonnell on that same card. Didn't even realise that. Talk to me about Brook Rabchenko. You happy enough with this comeback fight for Kell?
Awful. Rubbish. It's not. Brook will stop him. Brook will get rid of him. It does nothing for me. I think he boxed once last year, and that was in the prestigious Palace of Culture in Borisov, and it was against Sayahai Krapshiler with a record 4-18-2. That's it. They've pulled him out. They've tried to sell him as they saw. He's a dangerous fighter. No, he's not. I think he boxed in the UK actually a couple of years ago in Walsall or something like that on one of Hatton's cards. Yeah. And then he lost to Tony Harrison. And then he's not really done anything since. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't think we'll learn anything about Kell Brook. No doubt you'll probably get rid of him and they'll say, he's a beast at 154. He's got a new lease of life. He's not cutting that weight. But then it'll turn out for the Amir Khan fight that. But he'll still make it if he has to, etc. Things like that. Doesn't do anything for me. I don't mind Yafai McDonnell at all. I think it's good to see that Hearn's willing to put 2 of his own men in at different stages of the career. McDonnell's coming off a loss. I think he had a bit of a nothing fight coming back. And Yafai's at that stage where I think he's won a Commonwealth title. And I think they were trying to team up for some form of British title shot against Thomas Patrick Ward, but obviously we all know about the promotional differences, so we don't think that's going to happen. So they put him in with Gavin McDonnell for one of these fringe WBC belts. Could be interesting. May not be. Sam Eggington's coming back on that card as well. He's moving up to 154. I'd rather have seen Eggington Brook than Brook Rabchenko. I think you'd know what you get with Eggington, and I'm not saying he would do anything, but he'd only go forward. He doesn't move his head, so he'd take shots. But I would rather see that personally. Obviously, we're not going to. And Dave Allen's going to be on there as well. No idea who against. I think they're trying to sort out the Lenroy Thomas. That seems to be a whole mess. And then they're on about getting Sam Sexton for the British title as well. So I don't really know. They're the only 2 confirmed ones at the moment. But going back to the original fight, Brook, Rabchenko, it doesn't do a lot for me. I'd rather get this one out the way and potentially see what's further down the line for Brook. I think they'll want the Saddam Ali fight, but obviously he's got to fight Liam Smith. And that's maybe something that I'd rather see later down the line. If Liam Smith wins, maybe a Liam Smith Kell Brook. I think that'd be quite interesting, to be honest.
See, I'll be honest. Actually, see this fight. See, unless Brooks actually up for it, this will be shit because Rabchenko doesn't let his hands go off him enough. I remember Tony Harrison fight. I mean, that was absolutely shit.
I was at that. He was poor, wasn't he, Andy?
Aye, and then he gets chinned right out of the blue. I watched his fight against Mundine. Okay, it was a close-ish fight, but he's fighting a 40-year-old fucking, past prime fighter, and he wouldn't let his hands go. He's like one paced, slow as fuck. So unless Brook wants to step it up, I mean, unless Brook wants to come in and make us not even a statement, but if it just comes in the mood to do the business, he'll take him out there. I would say within 4 or 5 rounds. If he wants to kind of work on things, if he's meandering about, if he's not in the mood, this has got the hallmarks of an absolute shit fest.
I don't think Brook will be up for this as well. Think about the last 2 fights he's had. Albeit he was up for the Errol Spence fight. He could have easily chucked that belt away, and he took that, and he was bang up for it. Likewise with the Golovkin fight, he had a huge paycheck waiting for him. So win or lose, he knew he was quids in. And then he's coming down to this. He's back on normal Sky, which it doesn't bother me. But we know what Brook's like. He balloons up outside of camp, and I mean, he's already talking of retirement now. Like he's already told, this is going to be my last year. I don't really understand why people announce that. You think like you say, Andy, now, what must be going through his mind now if he's in a retirement? He's more concentrating on retiring than he is in camp.
I think he's like Nathan Cleverley. I think he's got one foot out the door, and Eddie's saying, you know what, come on, you're in the prime of your life, we can still get you some paydays, just keep stringing it along.
Well, if Eddie is doing that, then he's a bigger cunt than what I thought he was, because see, at the end of the day as well, as Rabchenko's, okay, he's got a dig on him, right? You just don't know how Brook's face is going to hold up to, a stray left hook or something, or maybe, just see there's a clash of heads or whatever, that it breaks his bone again. You just don't know. If this, he could actually, this could be his last fight. If an injury happens again, this could be him.
Yeah, I mean,
a left hook could destroy his career. Could be it.
Ocular bone injuries have ruined people's careers, and you don't need to look to the example of Tony Margarito. That would be example number one, but there have been many other cases where, I mean, that's a very difficult injury, and he's not only had one, because in the case of Golovkin broke his ocular bone on one side, and then Spence broke the ocular bone on the other side, right? It wasn't even the same side.
On the plus side, Donny, though, he's got no more eyes to break.
Fair enough.
What about his Jap's eye? Maybe in Spain somewhere.
So I think the thing that's interesting...
Some of his friends will be praying it's not his jaw that gets broken.
What the interesting thing about in 2018 is... All right, so you imagine Amir builds himself back up maybe by beating a Vasquez and a Broner maybe, and then he positions himself for the Kell Brook fight. It's a grudge match that people have waited for a long time. Who does Kell Brook beat, and how does he position himself so as to build that same rematch? I think that they're probably on a collision course to face each other by the end of 2018. So there's that. Also, I mean, I don't want to change the subject too much, but speaking of Kell Brook, one of his toughest fights in his career was Carson Jones, who is fighting Ted Cheeseman. I don't know exactly when that fight's going to happen, but I know it's already scheduled. I think that would be a tough test for him. We can discuss that later, but that's another fight that we should throw out there if we're looking.
See, Brook is like turning into Miguel Cotto for me. He is becoming an irrelevance. He's trading off one past win. Okay, Cotto's got a couple of good wins at 147. I'm not going to deny that. But Brook's still dying off this victory off Sean Porter. Okay, I hadn't won in the fight by a couple of points now, but it was shit. Absolute awful fight. And, Eddie's going to trade them off as like the number one welterweight in the world and all that sort of shit. He's still fucking feeding off that one victory, which was very close. And then obviously everybody's giving him props for getting his fucking face smashed against Golovkin, which you got millions to fucking take up. And then you get absolutely early doors he didn't get outclassed, but in the end he was absolutely outclassed against Spence and got his face smashed again. So it's just hang it up. I've had enough of him.
Yeah, we're talking Kell Brooks, Sergei Rabchenko at the moment. Rob Kelly's jumped on the line. He's joining Ozzy, Andy, me, Donny, and Ben. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Go ahead and press that big red button. Rob, we're talking Kell Brook. We talked a bit of Amir Khan, maybe the two of them fighting. What do you think about Amir's return, and what do you think about Kell's return as well?
I hate this partnership of Eddie Hearn and Amir Khan. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. I have to listen to this Quiff Richards talking shite on his I feel about great business makes sense and everything. I don't have to like the guy. Oh, come on. Like, will you this fight? Just make this fight happen. It's either going to happen or it's not. Like, I don't want to wait till the end of 2018. Amir, right, he needs a warm-up fight. Brooke needs a warm-up fight. But let's make that the next fight. Like, they don't need 6 months to build a pay-per-view for Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. It should sell itself. He's at the height of his popularity after swinging out of the jungle. Just make that fight happen, like, and let's see who wins. I'm kind of with the boys. Like, what does Rabchenko like? I understand he needs to kind of a fight at 154, but give us a live body, will you? Like, come on, like.
What weight does it happen at?
This is another thing. It has to happen at 54.
154. You just know Khan's going to hold on for 147.
Of course he is, because he can still make 147 after his jungle diet. So no, I hate this. I hate this partnership with, and I understand why he's gone, because he's going to make a few quid from Sky and all that. But I have a feeling. I have a part of me feels that this fight will never happen. Still, like, I feel like, you know, Eddie thinks there's other fights there for Khan. And he thinks there's other fights there for Brook, and I don't think that I just can't see it. Like, I think at 154, I'd favor Brook over. I favor Brook over Khan anyway. To be honest with you, I always kind of thought Brook would have Khan's number, but I just hate it. Like, I don't know. Amir, to me, his career for the last few years hasn't gone, like, ever since he held out that time, and embarrassed himself with all that. Like, I think his behavior in the run up to when he possibly could have had the fight with Floyd around the time of Maidan at that time actually went against him. You know what I mean? The way he was pitching himself as a big international star, the Khan army, all this, like, really, really, like, rallying for the Floyd fight. And he rallied for it so hard that he didn't get it. And his career just went nowhere then ever since, like, really didn't it? Like, you know, it's I don't know. I've had enough of the two of them, to be honest with you. I'm ready to see the next generation of British fighters come through. I like Khan. He's always been in exciting fights, but do I want to see Khan versus Manny Pacquiao in 2018? Nope. And do I want to see, like, I don't think, and another thing, at 47, I don't know if he could beat anyone at 47 to win a world title now. He definitely can't beat Errol Spence. Gives Thurman a fight, I'd say.
He'll not beat Crawford. I think you all said that as well. I say he's going to do decent enough against B-level operators, but you start getting up to the kind of like the top guys. Thurman I can maybe give you because he's injury prone.
Yeah, and
he's still going to beat him. He's still going to beat him.
Yeah, but like Thurman, like, you know, Khan is not, like, the thing about Khan is that he's always going to be vulnerable in the fight. Was that his defense is not that good, and he keeps switching coaches, and every coach he moves to, he moved from Oliver Harrison to Freddie Roach. Then Freddie Roach is not teaching defense now. Virgil is teaching him defense, but he still hasn't got a defense because he's still getting tagged. Look at pulling out with his head in the air. Someone Keith Thurman to take the head off him, I think, at some stage in the fight. So.
Thurman punched like a fucking truck. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
I can't see a way.
No joke. I mean, he's got 30 minutes to find Khan's chin. He'll find it.
Exactly. I can't see. And a rematch with Danny. Actually, there's a fight I'd love to see. A rematch with Danny Garcia. I'd like to see Danny Garcia versus Khan too. We've
been getting Garcia shite for his recent run of opposition in the way. So.
Yeah, we have, but like I think that fight's interesting with the revenge factor, and if he could beat Garcia, it would make his stock rise again, at least in boxing. But I can't, for the life of me, see him winning a title at 47 at the moment. And really, the only fight there is for the two of them to fight each other after one warm-up fight. But you know, Eddie, he's going to string it out until December, isn't he? Like, if we do this fight, it's going to be there's going to be two other side dates where they both box, hype it up a little bit more. And that's when we're going to see that. Like,
is he still
sneaking in the room there? What do you look? What?
Is he still with Virgil Hunter? Right?
That's what I was going to ask. Actually, is he still
with Virgil? Isn't he? But I think there's isn't there rumors that he's going to go somewhere else? Or
what do you think, Ben? Where's he going to end up?
I heard a rumor that he was going to go to. I mean, maybe Ben might know more about this.
Garcia.
I heard Robert Garcia. Yeah.
I know. it's probably something they might be thinking about, but whether he's going to leave Virgil or not, I really don't know. You know, there's always talk like this with fighters, and especially people like Amir. I really don't know whether he's going to. But I do know one thing: he really wants that Garcia rematch. He's wanted it since it happened. And when I worked with the team on the social media stuff, I know that they tried for that fight countless times, and Angel Garcia was always a blocking point for that fight. He does not want that rematch. He really does not want that rematch. Danny, you know, like I always say, you guys have asked me. Everyone in the group has asked me, would Amir fight Kell? Is he scared of fighting Kell? And I know he's not scared of fighting Kell. Amir's not scared of fighting anyone. He's a fighter. He gets punched in the face for a living. I don't think most fighters aren't scared of fighting other fighters. Danny's not scared of fighting Amir. He probably thinks he can beat Amir in the rematch. I think Amir will do him in the rematch, but we don't know until it happens. But I know Amir really wants that fight, and that could be the second fight that we see if they don't get the pay-per-view sorted with Manny in sort of September time. I think that might be the second fight we see. Danny Garcia, if Angel lets it go through, depending on sort of how he looks against Brandon Rios. So I know Amir really wants that fight. And as for Thurman, I think Amir would give Thurman a really good fight. But the thing is with Amir has to stay clued on for that full, you know, the full fight. When Amir loses concentration, that's when he has the defensive lapses. And that's Amir's big problem, when he loses his concentration. Keith Thurman is a clever guy. He can stick to his game plan. He did it against Garcia, and he can stick to his game plan for the full 12 rounds. And he would do that against Amir. And Amir, if he has one defensive lapse, that, you know, it can be game over, especially like you say, when Thurman can punch.
Go ahead, Rob. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, no. The thing is about Amir, like we hear from him a lot, like Ben, about him boxing to a game plan, like, but he always seems to get caught. Like, it doesn't matter who it's against either. If it's against Chris Algieri, if it's against Diaz, there's guys that can't really punch. They'll still catch him and they'll give him moments in the fight. Like, even from early in his career, Lamont, his concentration is a big issue for him. And if it hasn't been sorted out at this stage, in the early stages of his career, it hasn't been eradicated. And it seems to happen in every big fight where he has a moment where he gets tagged. You'd worry for him against Keith Thurman. Like,
I'm just trying to think in my head. Was Alexander the last fight where he didn't have a lapse? You know, he was quite good. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, probably maybe Zab too. When Zab, you know, even though the stoppage was kind of was beating Zab up, he didn't really have any vulnerable moments in that. But in all the other fights, like even on the comeback after the Garcia fight too, like there's been moments where he's been getting found. Like, so I just couldn't see. I don't know. I'd favor Thurman, but I don't really rate Thurman either that much, to be honest with you. I don't think Thurman is what Thurman thinks he is.
What I don't understand is why people give Thurman a lot of shit, because this is a guy who beat Porter, who beat Garcia. I mean, he basically cleaned out a lot of guys in the welterweight division. I mean, top guys. I mean, why doesn't anybody give him any respect?
Simple fact is he's not active enough. He's talking on interview. He's talking about interviews and that he wants to be more popular. Wants to be on free TV. He's wanting unification fights. He's putting other fighters' names in his mouth. And see, to be honest, since 2015.
But he's got it.
He's fought 4 times.
He's got Guerrero when Guerrero was still semi-good.
Come on.
He's got Guerrero. He's got Porter, and he's got Garcia. That's much better than
Porter. Come on,
on a pure
fucking Colazo.
Yes, yeah. Well, he has on a pure resume basis. His resume is better than, even though I think Errol Spence beats him. His resume is better than Errol Spence's resume.
Wait a minute. Well, I need to go through Errol Spence's resume, but again, that's another career going down the toilet. I mean, that's disgraceful how that kid's no fought since Kelbrook.
Yeah, we're going to discuss that, Andy, actually.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate. On you go. But it's just saying this, you know, fucking Thurman's career, you know, 4 fights since March 2015, and then the one before that, he had Leonard Bundu, who was a European champion, decent enough fighter at European level, but way past his prime, at least 38-year-old at the time of that fight. You know, he spoke a lot. He's not backed up a lot.
No, you're fine, Andy. Well, actually, we can discuss that now, because Joey at Master Mode asked me a question, and he said, which fighters or promoters or managers does the panel think really need to step up in 2018? Well, Al Heyman, in my opinion, Andy, you touched upon it there, needs to step up in regards to the career of Errol Spence. I was watching an Errol Spence promo video for the Peterson fight, and a few people were saying, castigating Heyman for not having Spence out again after he beat Brook and capitalising on it. And somebody wrote in the comments, "It's only been 8 months. What's your problem? They can't fight every week." I mean, what a ridiculous attitude. They should be building straight on Spence's win over Brook before now.
I mean, they were paying for airtime and stuff, so you think they would have their pick of the dates and that. I just think it's absolutely disgraceful how this guy has not been fighting more regularly. I mean, if I can just give me a second to, I'm trying to find an old tweet actually. It was actually quite interesting about the PBC fighters, and I'll give credit to the person that actually tweeted it out. If you can just pass it on the news, Steve, and I'll find this tweet, and if you can come back to me.
No problem. Go ahead, Ben.
The common thread here is they're all Al Heyman fighters that don't fight. Amir doesn't fight. Keith Thurman doesn't fight. We're seeing it with Errol Spence. I think the only Al Heyman fighter who was fighting quite regularly until he lost was Danny Garcia. And the only reason he was fighting regularly was because he was fighting bums most of the time. Or,
right.
One other fighter that
found it.
Fought regularly was Deontay Wilder, but the problem was that a lot of his scheduled fights got scuttled by other people doing PEDs, but that wasn't his fault. But he did have, at least for a while, like in 2015, 2016, early 2017, he had Wilder on a pretty regular schedule of fighting every 3 months. But unfortunately, a lot of his fights got screwed over by negative drug tests of his opponents. But I mean, look, the thing is with Heyman is that he has acquired an enormous amount of highly talented world-level fighters. But the thing is that he doesn't have enough TV dates, and he's got too many mouths to feed. And so these guys can't get out as frequently as they should. And Errol Spence actually has the highest-rated TV broadcast for boxing in America in the last, 20 years because he fought in that fight that was right before the Olympic closing ceremonies. And he got a 7.0 rating, which is ridiculous.
That was the highest PBC rating ever, Donna.
Yes, it was, and it was the highest rating for boxing actually on television in the last 25 years. I mean, he had a huge rating, and then he goes and has a career-defining performance against Kell Brook, and a normal promoter would want to capitalize that on immediately and have him back in front of the American audience and back on people's television screens immediately. And the fact that he's been out of the ring 7 months since that point is criminal. And even Spence himself has acknowledged this and said, I wish we could have gotten back out in the end of the last year, but we didn't. But we're going to come back in January. But I mean, there is a lost opportunity there. He's a great fighter, and I mean, I think that even if Heyman has a lot of mouths to feed, he needs to be prioritizing Spence as his guy for his next pay-per-view fighter. Because that's the man. I mean, he's the man in boxing right now, and in my opinion, in 3 years, Spence will be the best pound-for-pound fighter in boxing.
Right, I found it right. It's Heymanite's tweet. This is from the 24th of August last year, right? I'm sure I've read this before. Stevenson, 1 fight in the last year. Khan, 0 fights in 15 months, which is now 20 months. Quillen, 0 fights in 25 months. Paterbev, 1 fight in 20 months. Lara, 1 fight in 20 months. Danny Garcia, 1 meaningful fight in 20 months. Trout, 0 fights in 15 months. Lamont Peterson, 1 meaningless fight in 22 months. Gary Russell Jr., 2 meaningless fights in 2 years. Santa Cruz, 1 fight in the last year. Figueroa, 1 fight in the last 19 months. And you've got Barthélemy, Porter, the 2 Darrell brothers, Mares, Spence, Barthélemy. All these guys, man, they're fucking sitting on the fence doing absolutely nothing while he's funneling money, I don't know fucking where. Still not into the fighters' pockets anyway. They're absolutely fucking wasted.
No, I think you're wrong, Andy. Actually, I think that he's funneled so much money into the fighters' pockets that they don't care about being active. In other words, they get paid so much money because the way that he got all these guys under contract in the first place was that he promised them ridiculous money, right? And so now, when they fight once or whatever, they get so much money that they're not upset about not fighting frequently because they've got so much money for the one fight that they did have. I think it's what happened is that at the end of the when Heyman was signing all those guys or whatever, and he had all that money from all of his financial backers or whatever, he put all these guys on these guaranteed contracts with all this huge money, and so now all of these guys can live very comfortably It's good for the fighters, but it's not necessarily good for the fans.
Wouldn't have ever paid Lamont Brewster.
I was just going to say that one other thing, that one other reason why Errol Spence could have been out is negotiations that we don't know about. So, for example, I know from my own experience that fighters can be out. Like Amir's been out before, and even recently, and they've been in negotiations. Those negotiations have ended up lasting months, if not the best part of a year. And people think, why is he not fighting? He's inactive. And in reality, it's not public knowledge, but in the background, there's negotiations going on for a fight that have just been dragged out for whatever reasons. And in boxing, there is a ridiculous amount of backstabbing in the business. It's crazy. It's like the drug trade. It's that bad. The amount of people that are backstabbing and trying to get one over on the other person, and things can often get dragged out. I'm just wondering whether they were trying to make something like, Spence versus Garcia, and it didn't work out. And that's why both of those guys ended up being inactive. If you notice, they've been inactive for a similar amount of time, and then they're both fighting at a similar sort of stage now. It could have been something like that. It could have been something different, but, failed negotiations that were dragged out could be a reason why Spence was out for this period.
Wise words from Ben. There's always a lot of nefarious goings on behind the scenes. Before we move up to the big boys, Aussie, let's keep this ball rolling. The major fight, the first major fight of 2018. Let's continue on the Errol Spence theme. He's going in against Lamont Peterson, defending his IBF World Welterweight title in the Barclays Centre on Saturday, the 20th of January. Quite looking forward to this one, Aussie. The return of Spence. Peterson's a tough, rugged customer, former title holder at different weights. More meaningless titles, I think, for Peterson, but he will give Spence a decent test, Aussie, and that's what we want to see with Spence now. And hopefully after this, he will keep active.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. It's good to see him back. I know you've just mentioned him then, but it's a case of how not to promote a fighter. He's just gone and he destroyed Kell Brook in the grand scheme of things. And then he just went missing. And it was a joke, really. But anyway, you've just discussed that. So it's good to see him back. It's early in the year, so it's in January. So there's a potential he could box 4 times this year. Now, I know that's asking a lot, considering he boxed, twice in like 15, 16 months or something like that. It was odd, really, because he was relatively active up until his Brook win. But no, Peterson, he will give him rounds. Do I think he could stop him? Potentially. But I think Spence will be grateful of just getting some rounds under his belt after such a lengthy-ish breakout. And then I want to see him in the unification fights. Keith Thurman, people like that. I want to see these fights. I think Spence is good enough. And to be honest, I don't think he'd shy away from them. So that's what I want to see Spence move on to this year. Go and unify it. That's what we want to see.
If he were to stop him, Donny, it would be quite the statement. We know that Peterson's only been stopped once before by Lucas Matisse. We can sort of write that off because Matisse hits like an absolute horse. I don't think Spence will stop him either. I think Peterson will last the course. What do you think?
Well, first of all, Spence is in the prime of his career, and by all accounts, he's been staying in the gym, and he's been training as if he has a fight coming up, even if he doesn't. And I think that Spence will stop Peterson. I think he's gonna want to go out there and make a statement because I think he is hungry for the big fights. I mean, this guy is young. He's hungry. He's coming off of a career-defining win, and he has, to me, the look about him of a really, really great champion. And I think that he's gonna want to go out there, in New York City next week. He's going to want to knock Peterson out. He's going to want to make a statement. That's going to put the pressure on Keith Thurman to make that fight next. They'll do that. I think that Thurman will go and fight Horn. He'll get that title. And I think the fight really to make in boxing, to me, I don't care about any other divisions. I don't even care about AJ versus Fury or AJ versus Wilder. I think the best pound-for-pound matchup that can be made in boxing is Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. To me, those are your two top fighters. If those guys square off, to me, that's the best fight you can possibly make in the sport. And if somebody else disagrees, then feel free to jump in. But I think that's what we need to see. So Thurman needs to do his business with Horn and maybe even with Pacquiao. And then Errol Spence goes and does his business with Thurman. I think they both win. I think that when they square off, that's the best fight we can see. I don't know if it'll be in 2018, but it'll probably be in 2019.
Rob, we can't obviously call Spencer wasted talent or anything like that, but there's nothing more frustrating in this game than a fighter at the peak of his powers, showing all the skills, the speed, the talent that Spence is, not getting in and fighting regularly, pushing on with a view to a fight against the likes of Crawford. It's the inactivity that frustrates me.
Yeah, and I agree with Ben because it's not the fighters, like, really, especially there's a common theme there when it's Heyman fighters, like, isn't it? So I think, like, Errol Spence would want to be back out. I was really happy when Errol Spence beat Kell Brook, not because I dislike Kell Brook, really, but because I've been rooting for Spence and I've been following his career. I think he knocks out Peterson. I think he'd break him down and stop. I actually think he'll beat him emphatically. It's a long time since someone took Spence the distance. He's been on a pretty hot knockout streak for the second half of his career in his learning fights. I think some people took him the distance, but I think he'll smash him up. Peterson's had one or two bites at the cherry. He's probably unlucky to lose against Danny Garcia. I thought he probably got that fight, like, maybe moved too much. Matisse knocked him out. You had the man in the hat and the cat and the man in the hat saga with Amir Khan in a fight I actually thought he done really well in. Khan was pushing down on his neck, but then again he got popped for steroids, so I don't know how much credit you give him for that performance either. Spence a big guy, like, for 147 as well. I think he will eventually move up to 154 or maybe above. I would agree that he's one of the stars of the sport right now, and it's just a pity that he's sitting on the shelf because, look, if I was Heyman and Floyd's retired, and even up, see, you have to wonder with Heyman as well. Heyman's been getting a percentage of Floyd's money, and those last two pay-per-view fights that Floyd had were astronomical money earners, like astronomical money earners. So he's maybe not even thinking, and there's such big gates, such big fights, that maybe he's just, like, putting all his fighters on the back burner. He's getting a percentage of those checks too, isn't he? Like, so he's probably set up for life based off those two fights. But if I was him, the natural successor for Floyd out of my stable would be Errol Spence. And I'd be trying to make Errol Spence a star. I'd be having him on every radio show, TV show. He is a bit of a humble kid. He doesn't talk trash, really. He's not. But his performances so far, he's so clever. How he goes to the body. His shot selection is great. He's got real power. So I would see him marching through Lamont Peterson, and then on the Crawford fight doesn't. I'm looking forward to seeing Crawford at 47, but that fight doesn't really excite me as much because I think Spence has too much for Crawford. Personally, I think Crawford's small and Spence is big, and just the two of them with a similar talent level. I think that maybe Spence, Errol Spence has the edge on Crawford, but. I want to see Crawford out a couple of times at 47 beforehand, but we mentioned, what's his name again? That Manny Pacquiao, what's the Horn? There's a fight for Khan. I'd be trying to get that fight. I'd be trying to get that fight if I was Amir Khan, because there's a version of the title that I think he could pick up. But looking forward to seeing Spence back out. I think he mashes up Peterson, and then the world is his oyster, really.
Ben,
Rob, did you just say that you're?
No, go ahead, Donny.
Say again, Donny.
Did you just say you're not interested in fucking Crawford versus Spence?
I'm interested in it, but not right now. Like, not right now. I want to see Crawford out at 47 first. Like, he's dominated lightweight. He's dominated light welterweights. I don't know, like, if that's the fight I want to see. I want to see him out at 47 first to see if I can make a judgment on that's going to be.
Well,
like,
I mean, all right, of course, yeah, you want to see him at the weight first, but I mean, in general, though, he's actually a pretty big guy. I mean, when he was at 135, he was rehydrating to over 150.
Yeah, but he's got 5'8" though.
And he's a young kid, and I mean, he's going to obviously grow into the 147 frame. Now, I mean, I think that maybe 154 might be a step too far for him, but whatever. But he surely has the frame for 147, and once he establishes himself at the weight and gets a good win or two, to me, I mean, when you're talking about guys who can really fight in every single aspect and in every single respect, I think that the two best punchers, the two best boxers, the guys that really have all the goods and all the talents that we're looking for as boxing fans, you got to look at Crawford and you got to look at Spence.
Absolutely.
The guys that we've got.
I agree with you. I think the Spence fight for Crawford might be a step too far. I want to see it. I just think it might be a step too far, and that Spence is just too big for him. And I know he might be big at the weight. But Terence Crawford's 5'8". I think Spence is like 5'10", and he's going to be like a light middleweight. So it's going to be like a light middleweight fighting a junior welterweight. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not as excited about it as everybody else, but definitely looking forward to seeing Crawford at 47 all the same.
Yep, that should be interesting. Before we bring Ben in, Andy, I'm interested to hear your 2 pence worth on Spence Peterson next weekend. How do you see that one going?
I agree with Rob. I think some of the lads are going to go for the decision. I agree with Rob. I think Spence will stop him. No as quickly as what Matisse did. I don't think maybe Spence punches as hard as that, but I think he will stop him probably mid to late rounds. Just different gravy. Just being the southpaw as well. Maybe just throw Peterson off. Peterson, we all know he's tough. He's had the hard upbringing and stuff, but he's not in the juice anymore. So he can't really kind of get you to the ropes and kind of throw there's hellish amount of punches that he was doing against Khan and stuff. I just think Spence is. I think Donnie mentioned that actually. The fact that he's only had one fight this year, it still sticks in my craw. But I would like to hope that he's been in the gym all that time working and stuff and trying to improve. Because I do agree with Rob that this guy is probably the heir apparent to Floyd Mayweather. He's not brash. He's not going to be making the money that Floyd ever did. But he's just that damn good a fighter. One thing I would disagree with Rob is I want to see the Terence Crawford fight against Spence. Just simple fact is I think at some point in the next. Well, it depends on how it all falls into shape, and again, it depends if Spence is going to stay active or not here, especially after this fight against Peterson. But I want to see maybe these two contesting it out for say the bragging rights and to be the kind of okay, they're not going to be undisputed, but be the consensus number one in the division. And it's going to be between Crawford and
or in the whole sport,
and the whole sport. But I wouldn't maybe go that far at the minute, but. Because we've got the political problems in between here. You've got the PBC issue, Bob Arum and stuff like that. I know there's been talk about Heyman opening up or the PBC opening up their books and letting other fighters fight elsewhere and all that sort of stuff. I know it's happened before, but you just know, again, we just mentioned Brooke Khan there. You just know for a fact if that fight is seriously going to be considered, the sticking point is going to be the weight. And the sticking point in this fight, we all know it's political between rivalries between two promotional companies. So you never get your hopes up, but you want to see the best fight the best. We're getting it to a degree up at heavyweight. We're getting the 2 best fights that can be made at the heavyweight division, which, by the way, is quickly becoming a shit fucking stink fest in that fucking division. Brown White, really good fight. But we're needing some top fights. We're getting it at the cruiserweight division and stuff. We had a good year last year. We need to kind of build on it, and we need fights like this to basically come to fruition. If we didn't get it, then Spence and Crawford for all I care could retire, because Crawford has kept quiet every time he's been with Arum and stuff like that. Not really getting the big names, so to speak. He's unified the divisions. He's been two-weight lineal champion, which is fair enough. That's Hall of Fame worthy, but he still needs that kind of breakout name, signature win name on his ledger. I think still Crawford, just a wee bit. I'm no, he's a really good fighter, pound for pound, all that sort of stuff. Great fighter, but I still think he needs just a couple of good other names on his resume, and I think Spence being one of them would be a really good start to it. We really need to get that fight happening.
Yeah, a few fights of interest on the undercard. Anthony Peterson, Lamont's brother, still going. I thought he'd retired, but he's still there. Adam Kovnaski, this unbeaten Polish heavyweight, he's got a fight. Marcus Brown, decent light heavyweight, who knocked out Sean Monaghan in his last fight, actually. Sergei Derevchenko is closing in a crack at the IBF middleweight crown. Possible future of Golovkin opponent, who knows? Bob Batista Jr. as well defends his IBF lightweight title against Javier Fortuna. We're hoping that Easter will get a decent fight soon, perhaps against Mikey Garcia. Tell me about any of that, Ben, if you wish, or go straight onto the main event, Errol Spence Jr. against Lamont Peterson. Ben, how do you think you'll get on?
Yeah, just for the not too much on the undercard, but the main event, I agree with Andy. I think early on Peterson will probably, like I said, he'll swarm him, and then once Errol gets sort of used to him mid to late rounds, I think, or probably after the 9th round, I suppose. I think we could see Peterson get stopped. I think that would be a really good thing for Errol Spence. But I don't think we'll see anything to do with him fighting Thurman or anything like that next. Garcia's fight is going to be it's a final eliminator now. Garcia Rios is a final eliminator for Thurman's title. I know the WBC don't sort of push those, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Thurman Garcia too. But I would like to see Spence versus Crawford sooner rather than later. I think it'd be good to see them maybe towards the end of this year. Like Andy said, there's a lot of sticking points, and it could take 6 months just to make that fight. But I think it would be good, very good for the sport, because there's so much rubbish out there now. Even if it's not for all the titles or what it could be if they waited it out another year, I think it'd be good to see it sooner rather than later. Why not? And like Rob said, I favour Errol Spence at this point at the moment as well. I just hope Lamont Peterson can make it a bit of an exciting fight on Saturday. I know he's, like I said before, he's had trouble with his last southpaw, and I think when he fought Victor Ortiz, that was a majority draw, I think, as well. So I don't know how well he'll do, but I hope he makes it an exciting fight.
Funny you should say that, Ben. I was just thinking to myself that when Brandon Rios loses to Danny Garcia, because he will lose to him, in my opinion, I think that's a foregone conclusion. But in terms of other grudge fights that maybe have slightly gone past their expiration date, but are still compelling, just like Khan and Brook, how does anybody not want to see Brandon Rios face off with Victor Ortiz? Because if anybody knows the history of that, these guys legitimately hate each other's guts. They were roommates in the Olympic trials or whatever, and I don't know, whatever fights they had or whatever, but they really hate each other. I mean, that's not some sort of manufactured Eddie Hearn type of
beef,
manufactured hate or whatever. Those guys really hate each other's guts. Garcia. I mean, Victor Ortiz is coming off of a ton of losses, obviously, and a lot of embarrassments. And then when Rios is going to lose to Garcia or whatever, I think that would be a great fight to see. Like, okay, who continues on in their career, and then who retires, but
who gets CTE and brain damage and talking to walls afterwards. I still want to see that fight regardless. Rios against Ortiz.
I've desperately wanted to see that fight for so long, and I just hope we get it this year, because
the story was apparently that Ortiz not turn up at Rios's house or something. An altercation that happened, and Rios's wife got injured. And
happened in I think it was Rios's driveway or something. Yeah, because they both live in Southern California. I mean, they really don't like each other. It's not a joke. It's not exaggerated. I mean, they really hate each other, and so for that reason, I would just love to see that match happen.
The ship has sailed on that fight like fucking hell. Like Victor Ortiz, what's he got now? 6 losses or something? 6 or 7 losses?
Something like that, yeah.
And he's not like it's not like he's even got you don't know what's even going to happen when he gets in the ring. Like, and Rios, like, that man is a walking CT scan. Like, he should have, like, when you see fighters visibly, it's so ironic that a couple of years ago, maybe it's karma or whatever, that he was like, and I'm a fan of Rios. I don't want to run the guy down into the ground, because I really enjoyed watching Brandon Rios fight when he was in his prime, and I was rooting for him to be one of the big Mexican American stars. But the fact that he kind of made fun of Roach that time with the shaking thing, and now, like, you hear him talking, he shouldn't have a license. Yeah. He is slurring his speech, and Garcia could take, as bad as Garcia is.
Actually, Rob, to be fair, he kind of always slurred his speech.
Yeah, but
I think I don't know. I think he has a speech impediment even from when he was a kid.
Maybe, but over the last couple of years, he's deteriorated. He used to be able to kind of he was coherent, like, and over the last couple of years, he's visibly on the slide. Like, he looks sluggish and slow the last time out. Like, and even Ortiz fighting Alexander, like, what's going on in this? Like, in 2018. Is this what we're getting served up? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being extra cynical tonight or whatever. Like, but I think that's a bum fight in 2018 with the two of them.
Rob's extra cynical tonight, Donny. He's in good hands, good company.
Well, yeah, no. I guess what I'm saying is that you know what? Sometimes, like, fights between. I mean, the thing with Ortiz is that remember, like, Forrest Gump. life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. With Ortiz, is like at least a couple of times, like for instance, against his fight against Berto, when he got floored twice, and he came up back up off the canvas to win that fight or whatever, and he showed tremendous heart. And then there's been other fights when he's just quit blatantly, and and he's just had like an up and down career, and everybody hates his guts, and I know I hate him. I don't even like him, but I mean the thing is though is that I think maybe he could get up for this one because he really hates he
Yeah.
really hates Rios, and so
I'd be
yeah,
afraid
I
that
just
I tell you what, right?
saying,
I'd,
yeah.
I'd rather see that fight in the driveway.
Yeah, have it in one of those. What was it? That BKB, the bare knuckle box.
Yeah. I'd like to see it in the driveway. Like, because Ortiz, I think, like in his whole career, like he's so blatantly jacked it against Calazzo, jacked it against Josecito Lopez. When there was a big fight pending for him versus Canelo for the winner of that, like he could have got a massive payday for that, and he got a broken jaw. No, I'm out. Now I'm not criticizing anybody for quitting. No, I've never had a broken jaw and had to fight anybody, but I'm not a pro fighter. Like, you know what I mean? He basically blew that to go Dancing with the Stars. The guy just not, and he was looking for a way out in the Floyd fight too. By the way, no doubt about it. No doubt in my mind about it. Like that.
That fight where he quit with a broken jaw against Josecito Lopez. I mean, he was set up to win that fight. I mean, remember Josecito Lopez was coming up from was coming up the weights, and I mean, he wasn't a big puncher in the first place, and he was coming up in weight, and everything was set up for him to fight Canelo or whatever, and he was winning that fight, and then he just bitched out of it. I mean, like I said, look, I'm not gonna say anything, but I mean, there have been, you can go back in the history and you can look at all the fighters who have fought with broken jaws or whatever, and this is a sport that demands that fighters go out on their shield, and he's the exact opposite of that sort of ethic. He's never embraced the sort of fighter's mentality, and
the only time he did it was against Berto in the first fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Berto, he showed incredible heart. It was like, because I think it was right after Maidana when he quit. He quit against Maidana, and he said, I'm a young guy, and I don't deserve to be taking this type of punishment, and I think I just wanted to just bow out or whatever, and he lost a lot of fans that way. And then with all the criticism, then he came back and he fought with a ton of heart against Berto, and everybody gave him credit again, and maybe he felt like he acquitted himself. And then after that, then he went back to his old quitting ways again. He's an enigma. He really has some psychological issues. There's no doubt about it. If you watch his fights and you watch his reactions after the fights and all those things. I mean, yeah, Ortiz is nuts, but the thing is that there's only one fight I ever want to see him in again, and it's a fight against Rios. So I just hope we get that this year, as we look forward to 2018. That is a fight I want to see.
Right, okay, let's move on, guys. We need to eat our way up to heavyweight shortly and then do the Bellew of the Weeks before we leave you for another evening. Ozzy, we've had a message coming from Rob Barnett on Twitter. He said, this might be a controversial comment, but does Eddie Hearn deserve respect for keeping his fighters busy, especially in comparison to Heyman, like we've just been discussing? Bit of respect for Eddie, Oz?
He's doing his job at the end of the day. So, I mean, if someone wants to come and applaud me for every time I do something at work, which I should be doing, then send them to my office and I'll really appreciate that.
In a sport full of people who don't do their jobs, though, Ozzy, I suppose.
No, yeah, I understand that, yeah. He's got, at the end of the day, he's got a big TV contract that he has to abide by, because if he doesn't, they'll just sack him off because there's a queue of people who'll take that Sky deal. That's saying. Did he give any examples of actually who he keeps busy? I need to look at cards and things like that, if like who are the busier and who aren't and things like that, just out of interest. Did he give any examples, or did he just mean in general that keeping lads busy, or...
I think he's just saying, because what we were talking about, Al Heyman, the fact that a lot of these stars aren't fighting at all, perhaps for whatever reason, Eddie at least is keeping people busy, so we have to applaud him for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go with that, yeah. I think it's good to see, and that's what we want to see. I think Frank's doing it as well. He's getting more and more people out regularly, getting them in the public eye, and ultimately that's what builds, like, fan bases, isn't it? Repeatedly seeing these people. It's all right seeing them, like, once, but and then you don't see him again for 12, 14 months. You forget about him. So that's what you want to see. You want to see fighters busy and ultimately gaining these fan bases and progressing up the ranks. Otherwise, what's the point?
Keeping fighters busy. Yeah, I mean, look at Golovkin, right? I mean, people shout on him for fighting some guys that maybe were, decidedly B or B minus class fighters or whatever. But Tom Loeffler kept him coming out every 3 months, every 4 months or whatever. And every time he fought, he, even if it was against a B class opponent like a Dominic Ware, right? He kept those guys, he kept knocking people out. And he kept on appearing on people's TV screens, and he came blast them out of there. And then people were like, "Holy shit! Wouldn't we love to see this guy fight Canelo?" And that's how you create a mandate for the big fights. If nobody wants to fight you, you just keep appearing on people's television screens. You keep knocking people out. You keep turning in tremendous performances, and before you know it, you will have the big fights. And that's exactly what happened in Golovkin's case. And I think Eddie does deserve credit for keeping some of his guys active. You can, debate all you want about, oh, well, I didn't want to see this fight. I want to see this other fight. But, I mean, if the big fights can't happen, at least keep your guys active, and that's what he does.
He puts pressure on them as well. What he does do, sometimes he will throw them under a bit because he'll kind of announce things and stuff like that. I mean, even lads like Scott Quigg, who vanished and don't necessarily offer a lot over here now, but he's got him that world title fight with Oscar Valdez. I don't know how much of a role he's played in that, but he can't get anything over here. So he's gone and got him an opportunity in a red hot division elsewhere. One thing I would say though is he's like, what more of his names he keeps busy, but some of the lads lower down the card, you don't see a lot from them at all. Like I'm just on the website now, but like Scott Fitzgerald is he's from around where I am in Preston. Really talented lad. Won I think it was a Commonwealth gold medal. Trains up at the Jennings gym near me under Michael Jennings, and he's one of these lads that can be moved relatively quickly. But nothing's happened. I think his last win was Bradley Price, and they're looking to move him on quickly. But I think he only boxed twice in 2017. One was on a show at the Guildhall in Preston, promoted by Steve Wood.
Do you think they'll start leaving him? Because Lucian Reed left him, didn't he, for Frank? Although I don't think he's even fought since.
No, Lucian Reed, it was a weird one. He left, boxed straight away, and then hasn't really done a lot. He's boxing for the English title. I thought they would have put it on this Copper Box card, but I think they're going to put it on a show later in, I think it's March or something like that. But in terms of people leaving him, I do think they will, yeah, because I was saying things that I've heard people basically like Rocky Fielding, Martin Murray. There's no plan for them, so basically they're getting a bit pissed off that other people in the stable are getting more opportunities, when quite frankly they're not deserving of them. Jamie Cox being one of them. He came in, he was sold as this next big thing, wormed his way into the Super Series, lost, and they're already talking about him, coming in at a higher level again. Whereas other people, like even Tommy Coyle's another one, who's thinking like, well, what am I doing here? Now, he's limited Coyle, but he is in quite interesting fights, as like he gets hit a lot, he can get dropped, but they're quite good to watch, as like a fan-friendly one. But again, these people are they're growing unhappy, and while they might not be, your sellout arenas, but it can be quite damaging to undercards because, for example, some of the fights we've seen, Coyle, Tyrone Nurse. Now, Tyrone Nurse isn't in entertaining fights, but against Tommy Coyle, it was actually quite good. Relatively, he's no defence, etc. And you start peeling those lads away from the stable, and your undercards, which Hearns are already relatively bare, become even more sparse.
Andy, we had a question in from Matt Ports, which I think you might like. He said, Matt has asked you, Andy, you can change one thing about boxing this year. What would it be? It could be shitty, meaningless titles. It could be judges being held accountable. Less catchweights, perhaps? What's the one thing you would change about boxing this year, Andy?
More unifications to get that undisputed champion, and there's absolutely no dispute who the man is and who all business must go through. So more unifications. Pretty much what we're going to be getting with heavyweight division. Hopefully this year we're getting Joshua Parker, and hopefully we'll get the winner between Wilder and Ortiz, find the winner Joshua Parker. So plus we've got the cruiserweight division that's going to be getting a undisputed champion. I suppose I don't know if you want to put Lebedev still in as WBA champ, but it's along the right moves anyway.
Yep, things are moving on. Donny, let's move on to the heavyweight division before we get out of here. Tyson Fury, we believe he's now signed with Frank Warren. Hopefully that British license is going to be coming back. And you're looking forward to seeing big Guinness drinking Tyson back in the ring soon.
I am. And the thing is, though, with Fury is that there are a lot of people who aren't a fan of him. A lot of the casuals are obviously on the Anthony Joshua train, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, they're all the way for him. And those of us who truly appreciate boxing skill and truly appreciate what Tyson Fury did to Vladimir Klitschko, who in my opinion was a better version of Vladimir Klitschko, because obviously he was near the end of his career. So Tyson Fury got a younger Vladimir Klitschko, fought him in Germany, and thoroughly schooled him and dominated him without seemingly any trouble at all. And AJ went life and death with him. And yes, it was a more exciting fight. And yes, it had a more emphatic conclusion. But ultimately, Tyson Fury didn't even need to go to those depths because he was perfectly fine just handling him, just outboxed him and made him look bad. And so really, I think for the purist in us, I think that Fury is the better fighter out of all of the heavyweights that exist right now. When you look at Fury, when you look at Anthony Joshua, you look at Wilder, you look at Ortiz, you look at Parker, I think that Fury is clearly a better fighter than all of them. But he's also self-sabotaging in many ways. And the best example, of course, as you just sort of alluded to, was this tweet that he just made where he's drinking a Guinness. Now, this is a man who has basically lost 2.5 years of his career, right? 2.5 years of his career, due, I would say, probably largely to substance abuse. Yes, I know he has clinical depression and all those sorts of things, but I mean, basically, the manifestation of that is that he did cocaine, he drank a lot, he ate everything under the sun. He's about 3 or 4 stone above his fighting weight, and he's been going through all this stuff, and so. He's trying to convince everybody, ostensibly, that he is a serious fighter again, and that we should all take him serious, and that we should all regard him as he should be regarded, as the true lineal heavyweight champion. And here this guy goes out, and he tweets out a picture of himself drinking a pint of Guinness. And I mean, my thought is like, are you kidding me? I mean, to me, like, if I had lost 2.5 years of my career on substance abuse, okay, I wouldn't be tweeting out a photo of myself drinking a pint of Guinness. I mean, this is like Mike Tyson tweeting out or retweeting a link to Harvey Weinstein's legal defense fund. Okay, if you're a convicted rapist, you don't you don't put out something defending a rape victim. I mean, like, in other words, he needs to think about the optics and the way that this looks. Okay, I mean, he's lost a lot of his career due to substance abuse, and I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. And people are, and when I said this on Twitter, I got some people that didn't like it. They said, well, Tyson Fury, he might just be drinking a water, but he's only taking the piss or whatever. But this is a guy who's trying to get his license back from the British Boxing Board of Control. You have to think about the way you look. You have to think about the messaging or whatever. And I mean, and for somebody like myself who is a fan of the guy, it's like it's making it harder and harder every single day for people who do like him and who do root for him to defend him. I even said to a friend of mine the other day who's a big Anthony Joshua fan, American guy from New York, I said, well, like Fury is
Kill him.
I said, I'm still, Fury is still the lineal heavyweight champion. And he just responded via text. He said, LOL. And I'm like, what do you mean, LOL? He is, that's a fact. He's like, yeah, he goes, but who would cling to that fact? It's 3 years ago now. I mean, nobody cares anymore.
Well, people cared when Ali was at the ring for 3 years.
Andy, I agree with you. But my point in saying this is that the casual fan, they don't care anymore because he's wasted so much of his career. So he needs to convince people that he's serious again. He needs to go out there. He can't be. I mean, this isn't a fucking joke. He's trying to get his license back. Don't be picks of a fucking drink and get us, man. Tell people, hey, you know what? I'm a serious fighter again. Everybody should take me serious again. And I'm gonna come out there and I'm gonna beat the bejabbers off of somebody in my comeback fight. And then I'm coming for Anthony Joshua and I'm gonna kick his ass. And he needs to be serious. And this is, frankly, this is insulting. That being said, though, like I said, he is a superior fighter in terms of the actual boxing skills. I think he's far superior to Wilder. I think he's far superior to AJ. And if he wants to take himself serious again, and he wants us all to take him serious again, if he really commits to it, to me, there's no doubt that he can absolutely dominate the heavyweight division again. But I mean, right now as it stands, I don't like the idea that he got rid of Peter Fury. You know what? The last time he was without Peter Fury was when he was in New York against Steve Cunningham, okay? A cruiserweight who just basically blew up to heavyweight to take the fight for the money. And Steve Cunningham, a guy who really probably fights around 190 pounds, knocked him flat on his ass. And it wasn't just a flash knockdown. He actually hurt him, okay? And what was the thing that you noticed in that fight? There was no Peter Fury because Peter Fury can't get a visa to come to the United States because of his, past. So, I mean, he always does better when he has Peter Fury with him. And the fact that he's gotten rid of Peter Fury, in terms of his training camp, to me is a major mistake. I love Tyson Fury. I'm a fan of Tyson Fury. I'm rooting for Tyson Fury. But I'm worried about how this comeback is going to go because I don't think that – I think that he wants the money, and I think that's why he's coming back. But I'm not sure that his head's in the right place. He needs Peter Fury back at his camp, and he needs to live the Spartan life of a fighter again. And he needs to take everything with the utmost seriousness. He needs to get his license back, and he needs to show everybody that he's not kidding around.
Ben,
one thing you were touching on there, and it's to do with the optics of everything and the PR. And I think that's why Anthony Joshua gets away with so much, because they've invested heavily in the right digital marketing and the right PR. Gareth Davis got a lot of stick for saying the British press can't get hold of him, can't get in interviews with him. And it is nearly impossible to get your hands on Anthony Joshua. Right now, if the Anthony Joshua, they're going to have the press conference, I have to apply to go to the presser. When Brooke Rabchenko presser happens, I can just turn up at the door, walk in. No one's going to say anything. I'll sit down. I'm part of the press. I don't have to show anyone my press pass or anything. I have to apply to go to the AJ pressers because that's how much demand there is, but that's how organized they've got the PR. And a lot of fighters don't have any sense of organizing their digital marketing and their PR. And that's why it's such a disaster. But it is important because, like Donny says, he wants to get his license back. He wants to get this image across, and he needs to do that properly. And there's, I love Tyson Fury because he's real. I love all the Furies because they are real, the real people, and I like that. They don't come across as horrible people. And you don't see that a lot in some of these stars. But yet Tyson needs to be careful. He needs to be sensible, and they need the right people around them doing this PR. You see, the only time Joshua, I think personally, has really touched his digital social media are the times we've seen the superior race comments and the Mugabe comments, and when he swore at Coogan or he said something to Coogan. I think that was Anthony Joshua. The rest of the time, it was some guy who does the same job as me, sat in a suit in London in an office, behind a desk on social media, and it's all organized and it's based on calendars and all sorts of different metrics and software. That's the reality of that sort of level of PR. And I'm not saying every fighter needs to go to that level, but I think it's really important, and especially for someone in Tyson's position, it needs to be organized and it needs to be on the ball. I really do think it's crucial for him. One thing, I didn't catch everything that Donny said. I did catch the sort of optics bit. One thing I think I noticed about Fury this week was that Dougie Fisher said he's got until April to defend his title. But the other thing I noticed was that he has to defend it against a top 5 opponent. And I don't know whether this is a must.
What title?
The Ring magazine. So the top 5 are Joshua Wilder, Parker, Ortiz, and Povetkin. So given that 4 of those are tied up, the only person he can defend that title against is Povetkin. Now, is that the sort of fight we fancy Tyson in? And I love Tyson. I think he's the best out there when he's on form and he's got Peter in his corner. But he hasn't got Peter in his corner. He's not on form. Well, we don't know how he's going to come back, what shape he's going to be in, what mental state he's going to be in. And then he's got to go up against someone like Povetkin.
Well, Ring Magazine, I mean, they kind of hold themselves out there as the arbiters of the lineal title, but in reality, they're not. A good example of the divergence between the Ring Magazine title and the lineal title.
It's not always the case.
Would be the Roy Jones situation, of course, when remember when Ring Magazine gave him the lineal Michalchevsky, whatever. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is a guy who won the title from Vladimir Klitschko, who never lost it in the ring. If you don't lose it in the ring, you're still a lineal champion, no matter whatever the fuck that Ring Magazine says. But anyways, that being said, I'll bow out.
That was one of Tyson's things, though, that he was holding on to in the light of Joshua's popularity or surge of popularity, that I'm the Ring Magazine champion, like I have the Ring Magazine belt. And then Fisher kind of, I don't know, that was like, I felt like that was kind of a slap in the face. He was like, well, we were busy doing other stuff. That's why we haven't stripped him. He has 4 months to get on board. I'm with the rest of the guys. Like, I'm worried about Tyson without Peter Fury. I think Tommy said in the chat that this guy that he has just is doing pads with him and he's just a trainer for the moment when he's in Marbella. If that's the case, so. But I heard Tyson say in another interview that, oh, this guy's my trainer now. Now he might be good.
Yeah, from the Ricky Hatton gym, I think, isn't it?
He might be great. He might be the next. I don't know, Costamato. I don't know. You never know. He might be a great coach, but the chemistry that Peter has, and Peter doesn't take any shit off Tyson. You see earlier in his career when Peter wasn't with him, some of the stages, not even the Cunningham fight before that, because Peter only took him. Peter, if I'm right, took him after about 10 fights. Was it 10 or 11 fights? Was Peter even in the corner for the Chisora fight? The first Chisora fight.
No, I don't think
so.
I don't think
he was, but I remember who was in the corner at the night saying to him, Tyson, if you don't stop fucking looking outside the ring, I'm pulling you out of this fight. He was looking out the ring, he was talking to people ringside and everything. So when Peter's not around, he's not the same fighter. Like, he shows vulnerability. And against if he is going to fight a guy like Povetkin after 2 years out, I'd be worried enough for him. I think we need the Tyson Fury that we saw against Klitschko is a product of Peter Fury's coaching and his own natural ability. I think he's got a tendency to turn off in fights if Peter's not around. So I'd be worried about that. But I'm worried, and worried in general what he's going to look like after 2.5 years out of the ring. I think I'm with the consensus there. I think he might be trolling people with the pint of Guinness because he's the king of trolling on social media, isn't he? I think probably even. They're not going to make it straight away, but maybe what will bring the best out in Fury is that he needs a live body. He needs a dangerous opponent in his comeback. If he's going to go out and fight against somebody who's going to clown, he'll probably come in even heavier. He might not even shed the weight. He needs a live body. So hopefully we can get. I said a couple of months ago I didn't think we'd ever get him back after the long layoff. Long time to be out of the ring for a big guy like him. The battle that he's faced to lose the weight might be a step too far or a bite too much for him. But we got to see him back. The game needs him. You know what I mean?
I think his first fight back, Ozzy, he's going to have the big gut and he's going to look like he did against that Joey Abel. Do you remember that fight?
Yeah, I do, yeah. And he, for his size, again, he displayed some good skills that night and some not so good things. I've got a feeling that when he does officially return to the ring, I'm pretty sure he's installed as mandatory for the WBO world title, because this was some sort of an agreement that I don't think the WBO ever stripped him. I think the belt was basically taken off him, because he was like mentally unstable and things like that. And Frank basically ensured this. So as soon as he steps back and he's active, he gets installed as mandatory. I'm pretty sure it's that. So anyway, now I've seen things like Shannon Briggs has been talked up as an opponent. I'm just looking at the WBO top 15 now. You can remove Huey Fury out of it. Christian Hammer, don't want to see that again. Jarrell Miller won't happen. Dillian White. Dominic
Wait,
Brazil.
Gerald Miller's fighting somebody for an eliminator, isn't he?
I'm not. Was him and Wack not an eliminator? I'm not too sure.
Yeah. I think it is an eliminator. I'm just forgetting
Yeah.
as to what belt organization that it's for. But
IBF.
oh, it's IBF
Was
eliminator. Yeah. So I think that whoever the
Yeah.
winner of that fight is going to be an IBF eliminator.
I mean, I'm just going down the right. I mean, Tom Schwartz, not seen him before. Pavetkin, he's at 6, but these rankings haven't been updated because he beat Hammer, so I think he's going to be in. And Xi Zhang from China, Caballel, that might be a live enough opponent. I don't know anyway, but one thing I will pick up on that. I understand he's uploaded in with a pint of Guinness. I couldn't really care about that. It's a pint. It's a pint of Guinness. It's not going to destroy him, and it's not going to ruin his license. That, and if you look at him in that picture now, he actually looks relatively healthy. He doesn't look like this fat slob that he has been, a little while ago and things like that. He actually looks decent enough. Looks like he's lost a lot of weight from his face. He's back in the country. So I don't really mind that. This hearing's going to happen.
It's actually funny though. I mean, I know a lot of people who do cocaine. I'm familiar with cocaine. I've never seen people who do a lot of cocaine get that fat. I mean, I'm wondering maybe did he perhaps mistake it for salt and put it on French fries and cheeseburgers or something? Is that possible? Because I mean, I mean it's not a drug that makes people fat. I mean.
No, it fucking drops the weight off you, doesn't it? It's a strange one with Tyson Fury. I think everybody wants to see him come back. But what you can't excuse is that ultimately, this drug cheat situation, and you'll probably never get the full story yet, but ultimately he basically held his hand up and waved the white flag with UCAD and basically said, right, okay, I did do wrong. Basically admitting that he did do something with PEDs.
Wait, did you say that? I mean, because the thing is, though, is that and I think in my opinion,
he agreed to accept the ban if it
no, I understand
the
that, but the thing is that, and here's my problem with not only just the BBOC and UCAD, but also VADA and USADA, whatever. They treat recreational drugs the same as PEDs, which to me is ridiculous.
No, this wasn't for the cocaine, though, wasn't it? This was for the stuff that was found in against for the Christian Hammer thing, because that fight against Christian Hammer and Huey Fury,
all I'm saying is
Andre Rudenko, they were made as no contest.
Do we know that for sure, though? I mean, it's so secretive with UCAD. Nobody really knows.
I'm sure it was for that. I'm sure they've not even done anything with the cocaine stuff, because I don't even think they tested him. Because this happened a while ago. This was back in when Fury was in Bolton, and he basically came and knocked on his door, and he basically told him to piss off. Said, "I'm not doing a test." And obviously that's a you can get banned for refusing to do a test in itself. But anyway, beside the point, there's something going on, and like I said, Peter Fury himself keeps saying that basically the truth will eventually come out. I don't see it ever coming out, to be honest, unless it comes out, in 20 years down the line or something. What I do agree with is
that he had. Didn't Peter say that they had video footage that they might of them showing him harassing Tyson, and that he'd followed a certain protocol and that they still turned up. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But he did say that they had some video footage of him coming of the time when he basically told him to do one, which I think might have something to do, and this is only speculation, into what Donnie was saying in terms of the way they treat recreational drugs the same, because he was definitely off his nut there for about 6 months,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I don't think anyone should get banned if they smoke a joint or sniff coke or anything like that. It doesn't, particularly out of camp as well. What they're going to gain from it, particularly a heavyweight as well, or something like that. That doesn't bother me. If he's putting anybody taking PEDs, then fine and stuff like that. Anyway, what I would agree with is the Peter Fury situation. Now, I think he's pivotal to the success of Tyson Fury moving forward. This comeback fight, I can't see him being in the corner. It'll be this Ben Davison. Now, Ben Davison is a coach to a heavyweight as well, Tom Little. He's like English level or something like that. But what everyone will know him for was that he was in the corner for Billy Joe Saunders' fight against Artur Akavov. Now, quite frankly, that night in the corner was an utter shambles, really. And I think anybody involved who watched the sport or does go on to watch it will openly admit that. Now, at the moment, Fury is essentially just he's like at Slimming World or bloody Weight Watchers. He's just enjoying his time losing weight. That's all he can do. He's doing some bag things and pad work and stuff like that. Maybe the odd rounds of sparring. But what else can he do? He was like 25 stone. He's dropping the weight. I think he wants to box around 19 stone. So if he's using him as like a bit of a Mr. Motivator, which is what he's doing, and he's like his weight loss sessions and training techniques are fun. Because Tyson did say is that basically he got bored in Peter Fury's camps because it was pretty much the same and it was boring. And it's understandable. If you're repeatedly doing the same things in camp, you know what's coming. It does get boring. So he's gone away for a change. Now, one person I do think could play a part in this is Billy Joe Saunders as well, who is real good friends with Tyson Fury. Now, look what the gym has done for Billy Joe Saunders. It's transformed him. If we'd have said 12 months ago Saunders would have gone out to Canada and put on a career best performance against David Lemieux, I think everyone would have laughed at that and said no chance. So fingers crossed that the same thing can happen for Tyson Fury, whether it's with Peter Fury, this Ben Davidson, he goes to Dominic Ingle or somewhere else. Fingers crossed it does happen. And I think everybody wants to see him back because ultimately the big fight at the end of it is a huge, huge fight between Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. Should the two respected people keep winning? So
the only thing
fingers
I'm
crossed.
concerned about though is so will Tyson Fury actually maybe be pressured to come back and try to fight Anthony Joshua before he's really ready? Because
No, I don't think Frank Warren will
no.
let that. He signed a deal with Frank Warren, and Warren said himself that basically Tyson needs 3 to 4 fights before he even entertains Joshua, which
I
is
agree
right.
with
I think he
what,
does need
what
that.
happens. What happens though if Anthony Joshua makes that fight with Deontay Wilder? Now, I actually think that Joshua's a better fighter than Deontay Wilder. I think Joshua probably beats him. But the thing is that Deontay Wilder probably has the biggest one-punch power in boxing, bar none. I mean, his right hand puts people, in stretchers. I mean, it's, he can really, really punch. And I mean, if I'm Tyson Fury, I got to be watching that fight sitting, feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I'll be sitting on pins and needles because, I mean, if God forbid Deontay Wilder knocks Anthony Joshua out, there goes tens of millions of pounds, right? I mean, that's a huge, huge risk. I mean, doesn't he want to come back and fight Joshua before the Wilder fight?
Yep, Donny. Excellent point. Right, we're going to start wrapping up now, guys. We're getting towards 10 o'clock over the next couple of minutes or so. So let's look what we've got left. We discussed Wilder Ortiz and Joshua Parker on the Patreon episode, which we're probably going to bring out on YouTube over the next few weeks. So we're not going to get too in-depth on that. Ben, I want to get your views, though, briefly, if we can, on the Parker-Joshua fight, which was signed today, in case we don't get you back on again. Do you think Parker poses a legitimate threat to Joshua?
Based on his last performance, no, I think he'd probably be a bit too slow, and Joshua seems to like that. I think Joshua will take him out. How long it takes, I don't really know. I think it's a sort of a formality. I think it's probably a tougher test than we've seen Joshua in. Especially in his last fight, and besides Vlad. But I don't see Parker giving him too much trouble.
Excellent stuff, Ben. We shall be discussing that fight, plus a few other points of interest next week. Frampton, Donaire, Warrington, Selby, Flanagan, Hooker's going to have to get pushed to next week. I think also Lucas Brown and Dillian White. Donny, a bit of sad news from you. A fighter that you're quite familiar with, Luis Rosa Jr., passed away there recently. What happened, Donny?
Well, yeah, this is really sad. This is a guy who was an up-and-comer boxing who, until recently, was undefeated. Lost a disputed decision in his last fight, but he was a real contender at super bantamweight. Only 26 years old. The pride of boxing in the New England region, particularly Connecticut, where I live. I had met him many times. Really nice guy. always had time to talk to everybody about boxing. He was really, really nice person, and it looks like, he has passed away, and apparently he was hit by a car going the wrong way on the road, which I could only assume is a drunk driver. So he's no longer with us, and that's a real shame. This guy was a tremendous talent in boxing, but also more importantly a really good person, and our heart goes out to him and his family.
Yeah, well said, Donny. He was 23-1, Puerto Rican, only 26 years of age, with 11 knockouts. So obviously some real sad news there. Andy, on happier news, we love a good giveaway on the show. And you have a book. We're not going to tell the listeners which book it is, but it's from your vast collection. And to win this book, Andy, they have to tweet into you and tell you the best fight they've ever seen and give the reasons why. But it can't be a mainstream fight or named fighters. Am I getting this right, Andy? Tell the listeners what they have to do.
What you've got to do, guys, you've got to source a fight for me. It's going to be a non-highlight fighter, so basically none of you like Roberto Duran, Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao type stuff. I want either, like, say, a guy who's been buried on an undercard off a big event or whatever stuff, like someone we're not familiar with. So you got to send me a YouTube link to it. Tell me why you think this fight's one of the best you've ever seen, and I'll choose the winner. And I'll ensure that the author and the person whose the book belongs to is signed, and I'll make sure it gets to you. I'll post it directly to you. So I don't know if we should put an expiry limit on this one, Steve, because we know quite a few people who listen to us are illiterate. They got their HNC for Cardinal College and all that sort of stuff. So we don't know if these boys can read. So I'll probably need to kind of the update might be slow, but we'll wait and see.
Hashtag fuck the listeners, Andy.
I've got a few bites at least there.
Rob, the listeners apparently who we all love and admire want a brief word on Adonis Stevenson, Badu Jack. We'll discuss it more in depth closer to the time, but initial thoughts, they want to know what you're thinking about it, Rob.
Has that fight been made, yeah?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
It's been made, yeah. No, I think...
Wait, has it been made?
I think the WBC of sort of mandated it. I don't know whether it's actually been signed.
What fight's that?
Stevenson Jack.
All right, aye.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Rob. There's no date. I'm just going on the fact that it's going to be made. Sorry.
Right. No, I like Badu Jack, man. Yeah, I like Badu Jack. I know he got a lot of criticism when he got evaporated earlier in his career, but his last 4 or 5 fights, man, he looked really, really good. Good off the jab. He's a good, strong guy. He can punch. Is there a reason for that? Is there another reason for that? Who knows? Like he got to have kind of suspicions over everybody at the moment, but that's not fair, really, to say on fighters. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt until proved otherwise. So he's only had that loss, and that could happen. He was early in his career against Derek Edwards, but good wins against Darrell, Groves. I thought he beat DeGale pretty well. And even though that was a majority draw, I had him winning that fight, and then smashing up cleverly. Like, I think he's in the ascendancy. Adonis Stevenson, when was the last time you fought a live body? Like, when was the last time you fought someone that could actually test him? Adonis Stevenson,
Chad Dawson.
That's a long time ago. And that's a Chad Dawson that was coming off a loss to Ward as well, like, wasn't it? So,
and even Fonfara even heard him and fucked him up, at least temporarily.
Yeah,
there was a statement released after WBC recently as well. Is that they've broken down their title situation since the time Stevenson beat Dawson, and holy fuck, it is a litany of a mess. Talk about pullouts for Alvarez, and I think it might be Alvarez maybe twice or 3 times. Yeah. It's a fucking what a mess that situation is.
The thing with Fonfara though is that even though Fonfara gave him trouble, nobody, when they made that fight, ever thought Fonfara would give him trouble or whatever. He hasn't been in a fight that was designed to be competitive since Chad Dawson.
I didn't have a rematch with Fonfara. Like, that was an insult to the fans as well. We didn't need to see the rematch with Andres Fonfara. Like, come on, like. So he fought like the likes of Capensi and Bika, and I don't know. I mean, would you favor Badu Jack? I mean, Adonis never looked like the guy with the great fundamentals either. He punches like an atomic bull. I always thought somebody with a good jab would be able to offset him move him around. So but I'd probably favour a bit of Badou Jack at the moment, but I think probably, you know, the time has come for Adonis maybe. Like, and I know he's a draw in Canada for some reason still. Maybe they like coming out in their droves to watch ex pimps. But no, I would favour Badou Jack at the moment, and I'd like to see Badou Jack actually take his title and get Adonis all the way out of here, so we don't even have to have him in the conversation anymore. 30 fights. What age is he like? Do you know what I mean?
40.
He's 40 now. Yeah.
30 fights in 40 years of age. Heyman guy driving around in his Bugatti and all. I'm just sick of him. Like, I hope I'd like to see Badou Jack get him out of here. He's had his shot, like, didn't he, at making so many good light heavyweight fights over the years. Like, he could have fought Kovalev, he could have fought Ward, didn't want to know, like. So this Badou Jack fight, if it happens, I'd probably favour Badou Jack, who's in the ascendancy.
Ozzy, final word to you before we get to the Bellews and finish up. March the 24th, Dillian, the talking shit white against Lucas, the tattooed penis Brown. This could actually have the potential to be quite a fun fight, I think.
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Big Daddy Brown train. I think Lucas Brown will stop Dillian White. I think in the last fight against Robert Helenius, who was AIDS, he wobbled Dillian White early on, and I think Brown will really stop him. And it would delight me if that happened, because Dillian White can go away and be... People finally realise he's not as good as these people are making him out to be. He's living off the one punch against Anthony Joshua. He got a gift of a decision against Derek Chisora. So I genuinely, I think it's not a bad fight, to be honest, because they're pretty evenly matched. Forget the bogus title on the line and things like that. I always say about this that evenly matched fights will more than likely produce competitive, decent matchups. And this is what it is. Now, the only thing that could let Lucas Brown down is that he's not been as active. Obviously, he's had these bans and things like that. And I don't really know what's happened with that. It was a bit of an odd situation that I think was his A sample positive, but his B sample was fine. I don't really know how it's worked out with the WBA. I think he ended up having like a 4-month ban. I think he came back against, I think it was something like Matthew Green or something, stopped him within a couple of rounds.
Oh, Big Matt Greer.
Oh, Matt Greer, is that who it was? Yeah. And then that was it. And then I don't think he's boxed since. So it's one that I'll watch this purely for the fact that I think Lucas Brown will stop him. I remember seeing an interview a while ago and people were saying that he genuinely does hit hard. It's not, just like thinking he has knockout power. Like, he hits really, really hard. I forget who it was. I think it was somebody who'd sparred both him and Deontay Wilder, and they compared the power and they said it pretty much wasn't far off, which is an interesting thing, really. Now, we're not going to see a boxing masterclass, but if Brown can come in like he did, in the shape he did against Chagayev, he did try and move around a little bit and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, he got dropped himself.
It was a good scrap, wasn't it, there?
Do you know what? It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And like you had all those, like, the Russian shadow boxing at the side of the ring when Chagayev was throwing the shots and stuff like that. But I tell you what a shot it was to drop Chagayev, because he has a decent chin in him, he has a decent set of whiskers, and fuck me, that hook really sent him out of nowhere. And if he lands that on Dillian White, he'll be the one talking shit when he's KO'd on the floor in an absolute heap. It's not a bad fight. I don't mind it. I think it's one that will produce a knockout in favour of Big Daddy Brown.
And I'll tell you what, Ozzy, I know you may not be familiar with this because I know you weren't at the podcast. I think maybe at the time that the Chagayev fight happened. But really, they called Danny Jacobs the miracle man for having survived cancer. But really, Lucas Brown is the real miracle man because he survived, putative anal rape at the hands of all the Chechens. According to Andy Patterson, who said that basically in Chechnya they kidnap you and they basically give it to you up the bum, as they say across the pond.
That's one of the classics, Andy.
That was a belter, actually. That's fucking true. It's fucking tell you.
I'm going to play that in one of the future shows if nobody's heard that. That is one of the classic values.
Don't make me fucking repeat this, by because it's fucking true. I've actually seen documentary evidence of it, actually, that the fucking Russian fucking sergeants that would sell off like the wee young conscripts and that, and get anally invaded. It's horrendous.
That still makes me laugh to this day when I hear that.
He was lucky to get out of there with the drink.
But I agree with Ozzy. It was a Graham and Chaggy fight. I said it on the Patreon episode. Actually, it was a really, really good fight. Actually, it doesn't matter what level these guys you think they're at, if they're world level or not. It was a really good fight. Brown White is a fight that's been really brewing for a while. I'm happy it's made. I'm really looking forward to that fight actually as well. I don't give a fuck about what level these guys are at. This is proper fucking hatred involved in this one.
A great heavyweight fight is a great heavyweight fight.
So it might deliver, and I think see at the end of the day, I'm pulling for Brown, and I really do think he's going to pull it off.
I'll tell you what, Lucas Brown to win by stoppage is 6-1.
Oh, I might get on some of that.
That is a huge price. That is huge. Like I said, Brown can punch. He can really hit hard. That is a massive price. That 6-1.
Who's offering that?
Paddy Power and Betfair at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to go and check that out actually.
It's 2-1 to win alone, just over 2-1.
That's
6-1 to win by a stoppage. I'm backing the. I'm going to get some money on that now. That's not going to be there on fight night. 6-1.
Yeah. Right, guys. One last thing to do. That's the value of the week, and then we shall finish. Let's get this party started.
It's going to happen, mate. We're going to do it, and when we do it, it's going to be vicious, mate. I ain't a man dregs with the weights. I ain't a man taking the last ounces of my soul on the scales. I've done that before. I ain't doing it no more. You can say what you want, oh, Bellew's not in shape, Bellew looks fleshy at the weight. Bellew's just iced a man who's never been done before. Bellew just feels in absolutely fantastic shape. Bellew doesn't lose 2.5 stone no more each time in the camp. Bellew goes to the gym now 15 stone and just cuts 10 pounds nice and easy. I fought Nathan Cleverly in my 16th fight, 15 fight novice. I'd fought, the best person I fought was Bova McKenzie at British title level. I am now, it's that 25, it's that 26 fights. I've fought some of the best, I've fought the best fighter in the world in my weight class, one of the biggest pound for pound punchers in the world. I've beat guys like Isaac Chilemba, world ranked guys. Let's see who beats Isaac Chilemba. I've beat renowned punchers, Edison Miranda. I'm not saying who's the best Edison Miranda, I'm just saying I've beat these guys. Who's he beat? Okay, everyone's saying, well, Tony, he did beat you. He beat a guy who basically got a fight because he opened his mouth at a press conference and he sells a shitload of tickets to the arena. That's why I got that fight. Everybody thought he was going to smash me. Everyone involved with that fight thought he was going to smash me. But when he went to within an inch of losing, and it's a decision that could have been either way, he doesn't want to come near me after it. That's why he couldn't answer the question then when I said it in front of him. Just answer me this. Why wouldn't you take the rematch immediately? Do you know what he said? I think he was saying what that was train station was. That long word. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I just answered a simple question like, why wouldn't you fight me the minute after the rematch happened? He wouldn't fight me because he believed he was going to knock me out and he just believed he was going to beat me up. And that's all I've got to say about that. All right, let's do it right now. Now, you fucking rat.
The value of the week.
Some man the tone there.
Brilliant, isn't it? Langer.
Don.
Good.
Donnie loves a bit of that, don't you?
Love a bit of the classic value theme. That was great.
The classic value theme just for you. Well, let's get on with them and then we should get out of here. Andy McFadden has nominated the Boxing Kingdom. The Boxing Kingdom saying just in, Joshua versus Parker pay-per-view price of $39.95 is fake news. Sorry to all of our followers. We only post accurate information, so the original tweet has been deleted. The Boxing Kingdom getting caught out there. Sky Sports Boxing has put up Johnny Nelson. I would give Dillian White the tag of the Terminator. Johnny Nelson says he explains why he wants to see the Brixton man settle his feud with Lucas Brown. Value of the week for talking nonsense for Johnny Nelson, says Turbo Jackson.
Typical company man, eh?
He's getting worse, isn't he?
Oh, man. I tell you how bad he's getting. He's getting that bad that I actually ignore him now.
Just ignore him, Andy. Just ignore him. Win a pair of Groves versus Eubank tickets, said the World Boxing Super Series. We should get this expert on here, Phil Bawajwani. He said, Groves versus Eubank, this fight is going to go the distance and have KO in the 12th round.
That's a good one. What's his name again?
Phil Bawajwani. We should get that genius on here with that type of insight.
Bawajwani. He's my front runner so far.
Yep, good man. Matthew Sibley has nominated all the... Hang on. For the Fight Guru said, describe Eddie Hearn in one word. And Matthew Sibley said there's plenty of Bellew of the Weeks in the tagline here. I had a look, and Matthew was right. There really was. Ricky Denya has been nominated. He said, I think Usyk is massively overrated. Bellew beats him for sure. All right, then. Who've we got here? Let's have a look. One of our friends on the Facebook page has nominated the Sky Sports Boxing page on Facebook for calling Tommy Coyle a Liverpudlian. We'll not go there. Chadders has nominated some of the replies down Tyson Fury's timeline when he's talking about being the lineal champion. Kid Cookster was one of them. He said, Tyson, you're absolutely deluded. Lineal is worth absolutely nothing, as in reality is the ring title. Methinks Mr. Fury knows that getting the AJ fight as quickly as possible for a last huge payday is his best future option. A couple of the guys did mention that earlier, but the Cookster has been nominated. Joe Ringer and Stephen McGuinness have nominated the World Boxing Council, the WBC. This is my front runner. They were talking about the Bronze Bomber for the performance of the year against Bermain Stiverne. It didn't last for very long, Andy, but in that time, WBC heavyweight champ KO'd former champ and mandatory contender Bermain Stiverne in dramatic fashion in a performance which resembled the best of the greatest, with the jab of Larry Holmes, the counting of Ali, and the pure aggression of Mike Tyson. Did you see all that in that minute and a half, Andy?
I never saw that, mate, but just along those lines, I forget who at the minute, but the PBC did the same. They made their fighter of the week. Maybe Robert Easter Jr., actually. Robert Easter Jr. hasn't fought since last July. How can it be the fucking fight of the week? Fuck me.
Oh, good one. The PBC. We'll nominate them, but the WBC as well. Mark Halsell has nominated Rav Cooch. Rav says, you're doing a great job, Eddie Hearn. What you do for British boxing is great. Keep going, my son. Wanted to pat you on the back. Respect. Real boxing fans, plus Eddie, will understand what I'm saying, Donny.
What?
You got something to add, Donald?
Nah, he's all right. Shut him up. Keep going.
No. No, sorry, never mind.
I think we'll mute him, shall we? Yeah, I think we will. ESPN have been nominated. Let's just mute him again. ESPN have been nominated. They said they tagged in Tyson Fury into a tweet. They also tagged in Anthony Joshua, the Bronze Bomber, and Ben Davison, but it wasn't Fury's new trainer, unfortunately. It was an IT consultant from London, ESPN nominated. So I'm sure Mr. Davison was wondering what the hell was going on. This is a good one. It's since been explained away by Mr. Al Bernstein, but he has been doing some good likes this week, including Brazzers, a tweet by Brazzers, and their new movie. It's a good one, I hear. 7 Year Anal, starring Blanche Bradford and Danny D, Triple X. Mr. Bernstein's a fan, apparently, or maybe not if his Twitter.
He is. He's a fan of those horizontal refreshment episodes, I would imagine, but to say that he'd been hacked is a wee bit kind of off-putting, a wee bit, because the other thing as well is actually he says that his wife's from Pittsburgh and she's a Steelers fan, so the Steelers have just lost some playoff game there in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. And he says she's angry. And I remember what I says to you, she says she'd be fucking raging to see your likes, pal.
Well, wait. Well, let me just get this straight, though, right? So I mean, so Bernstein says he's hacked or whatever, but now there was nothing before that he tweeted, nothing before that he liked, nothing after that. It was just this one thing. Now, you know what?
I don't know, Donny. I've just got a screenshot for 7 Year Anal. I don't know the context.
No, well, that's another question too. I mean, 7 Year Anal. I mean, you know, I've done anal.
Yo.
I would say it's more like 7 seconds. Really,
yes, Tonya.
Years.
Donny's done anal before. Anal sex. He just let us all know, and the thousands or millions of our listeners.
That's you're getting the value of the week yourself for that, man.
He's just told. I don't know why. He just told us fucking live on air.
Andy, what are you telling your wife?
Because I found it funny, and she's like, "What, Donny? My wife's asking you, why are you telling us that?"
anyways, what else I was gonna say was that the really funny thing is I was thinking, and I said this on the chat the other night. Tommy really found it entertaining. I thought it was funny as well. I was saying, if I did ever do some sort of pornographic, self video or something, I think I would like to have Al Bernstein do the narration.
Commentating on it.
Yeah, like have him do the color commentary, but like, he's really getting in there inside now. Yeah.
What's the key? Okay,
You know,
Donny.
I have a feeling.
What's the keys to victory?
With one big shot in any minute.
Harry Letterman will have you up on the card, man.
What's the keys to victory, Donny?
Okay, Steve, take over, man. What the fuck?
Jim Lampley with his CompuBox stats.
Johnny needs to get inside.
Donny's ass has got like a fucking fiddler's elbow. And he's like, he's only got 2 furlongs to go.
It'd be like when,
okay, Jim. Donny can't stand up straight.
it'd be like when Manny was commenting on War.
Oh my God!
You're dreaming nights like this, Donny, but you're very, very.
You very really live up to expectations.
Right, Donny, pull your boxes up and let's move on, man. That was good. Well done. Right, where do we go from that? The only way is up, I suppose. Literally. Right, Dominic Henry has nominated Simon Ross. Simon Ross says when Paul Smith Jr. grows his hair a bit, he has a look of Roberto Duran sometimes. That's about the only resemblances, Andy, I think.
Sorry, mate, I'm still laughing. Say that again.
Simon Ross said that Paul Smith Jr., when he grows his hair a bit, he resembles Roberto Duran. So Paul Smith Jr. resembling Roberto Duran in looks alone, maybe.
Well, that's about the only thing I could look out for, by the way. Paul Smith gets a nomination for me as well for more than about fucking £50 he lost in a bet. The guy's a fucking...
a Sky bet or something, yeah.
Aye.
Okay, we'll add him in. Matthew Skelton has nominated Sky Sports for saying that Joshua Parker fight is the one the fans have been waiting for. Rob Barnett has nominated Dillian White. Dillian White calls Lucas Brown a bully, yet White continues to call him a tattooed penis and refer to him as being a drugs cheat. Oh, the irony. That's a good one from Rob. Tony Bellew has been nominated from Donny. Tony's been up to his old tricks talking about stuff. We'll leave that alone, I think. Toby Hines has nominated let me have a look. On Sky Sports today, announcing the fight in the studio was Dave Higgins and Eddie Hearn. And Eddie said, according to Toby Hines, in fact, this is the first time 2 undefeated fighters with 100% records have met in a unification fight. Now, obviously, that is complete fucking bollocks, says Toby. I could list a ton from all weight classes, but assuming he was trying to mean heavyweight, even that is wrong.
Yep.
Can't be heck. But give a list off the top of my head. Tyson versus Tucker, he says, Andy.
Tyson against Spinks. Spinks was the lineal heavyweight champion, even though there wasn't a title on the line. He was still. I think he dumped the IBF title because he didn't want to fight some fighter, and he went on to fight Larry Holmes. I think I might be wrong with that one, but Spinks was the lineal champion. Tyson was undisputed champion. He held the alphabet titles. Boom, they fought. Tyson was the undisputed lineal champion.
So Eddie in bullshit controversy.
Oh, fucking we all know what Eddie's about. Eddie was still fucking gent to the Iranians, man, for fuck's sake.
Any other nominations, gentlemen?
Wait.
Yes, I've got a few.
I've got Danny Garcia.
You said you left that Bellew one for me?
No, I've got a couple others.
No, you nominated Bellew, didn't you, Donny?
Yes, I retweeted this earlier, or I quote tweeted it this earlier. I found this quite entertaining. This is Tony Bellew's tweet from 4:55 p.m. Yesterday afternoon.
How many seconds?
Says, Can I go ahead?
Wait, Donny.
He says, I swear this country needs its whole justice system reviewing IMO. Pedos and rapists need executing. Punishments do not fit the crime. We need to start cutting the hands off burglars and watch how quickly it will stop. Now, you know what? First of all, this is indistinguishable from probably a Donald Trump tweet, but also a tweet from the Ayatollahs of Iran. So,
fuck's sake, is
Tony
a voter for ISIS?
I would.
But he was going out ISIS a few weeks ago, wasn't he? He was going over to sort ISIS out a few weeks ago.
Ayatollah Belyoumani is advocating for cutting the hands off of everybody who steals candy bars out of the stores.
Tell you one thing, he's going to have some trouble waving to his friends in Liverpool. That comes in.
Why did he nick stuff when he was a young fella?
No, I'm just saying maybe some of his neighbours might be handless.
Right, my nomination.
Right, go on, Andy. Right, enough, Donny. Thanks.
I've got one for the WBA for ranking Joe
Fournier.
Fournier is
Yeah.
11 in the WBA rankings, right? This is a guy who fucking failed a drugs test in December 2016. I think it might be in Belgium or somewhere. I forget where anyway. The report came back for the Doping Commission and referred to him as a non-elite athlete. So the WBA, they definitely need to get a vote. They're just absolutely fucking terrible. And they want to put in Floyd Mayweather because Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns, obviously they're very friendly, best pals, right? And you see Ray Leonard kicking around about with Tommy Hearns' t-shirt on, the Route of Fights t-shirts. So they're obviously promoting each other's brand, right? What does the wee bitch Floyd Mayweather do? And he comes, you sugar, I am TBE, Sugar Ray Leonard. Floyd, remember, this is the response. He's a fucking wee dick. You lost your first fight to a lightweight, which was Roberto Duran. TBE has never lost. Right? Absolute fucking... These people...
Both y'all are easy work as well. Thomas
exactly. Easy work. Tommy Hearns would have lit his arse up like a fucking Christmas cracker, by the way. Swear to God. Hearns was the absolute epitome of a nightmare for any fucking wee fighter. With his reach, his power... See, welterweight, that guy is probably the most biggest mutant or freak at 147 I've ever seen. That guy's power, his range, his boxing, his jab, there was nobody like him. And the fact that Ray Leonard was actually getting his arse handed to him for 14 rounds before he turned the tide basically speaks volumes about how Ray Leonard was as a fighter. And he fought him in his prime. Should we start breaking down Floyd Mayweather's resume again, guys, about how he fought guys past their prime, B-level, C-level operators? Nah, we'll not bore with that tonight. But Floyd Mayweather gets a vote for me.
Yeah, and can we add Floyd into it as well? Because some journalist during the week, who was obviously setting him up, by the way, who knew what she was asking him, I'm not sure she was some feminist journalist or whatever, but she said she wanted she wanted to ask Floyd how he felt about the Me Too movement. And he said, shit, when I didn't know what the Me Too movement was, but for me, it's if somebody has a private jet, I'm like, me too. Someone says they got $1 billion, I'm like, me too.
And, here we've had a message in from Al Bernstein. Hold on.
What the fuck, Donny? What are you doing?
What the fuck?
Thanks for that, Al. Right, any other nominations?
Danny Garcia.
Can we give anyone as well for when he was announcing Cannes? He said that if you want to be with the best #1 promoter in the UK and the US, so he's obviously that 2,000 seats that he sold for the Danny Jacobs show is putting him at the #1 US promoter there with Clifton Golden Boy, Heyman, and Bob Arum. Like, what a shithead.
Always happy to nominate.
Shout out to McKetch for the first introduction to the book competition. But unfortunately, I provided that fight to the Twitter sphere and to the forum days and stuff like that, so you can't include that one.
Keep trying, though. Ben, what about you? Danny Garcia, you were saying?
Yeah, Danny Garcia, he said he didn't lose to Keith Thurman and that Brandon Reyes was not a cherry pick when he was speaking to Radio Raheem, which to me has got to be Belly of the Week.
Definitely Belly of the Week. Ozzy, any nominations finally?
Yeah, I've got a couple. He's called Luke Tucker. Luke Tuck 579205589 on Twitter. He plays up front for Matchroom FC, and it was in response to people talking about the fights up and coming for 2018. And he said, "What's Frank doing? The BT deal was meant to be a game changer. He never puts on good fights. All the fights people are talking about are by Matchroom Boxing." Yes. So that's one of them. Then I have, just let me go on my profile. It was a guy who I found during the week. He was slagging off the Warren Cameron the Rodge on Twitter. He was slagging off, saying that no Frank Warren fighters will ever or box for world titles. So I decided to respond that Saunders, Selby and Tete were all world champions. Flanagan, Warrington and Smith are all to box for world titles in the first quarter. And he deleted the tweet and blocked me within a minute. So thanks for that. But if you're going to make comments, please be factually correct. And then the final one is for the new journalist on the scene, Michael Benson, who persists to steal tweets.
You hate him, eh? You
Ozzy can't stand him.
Ozzy
Yeah, because-
fucking hates him.
Because what he does is wrong. What he does is right. Boxing is a sport where if you want to get comments, quotes, stories, these guys, bar your Joshuas and like your real world, like huge names, you can get them. Trainers will speak to you. We see it ourselves that trainers, fighters will come on here on a Sunday night, no money or anything like that. They'll do it to get the name out there. Instead, he just whips these quotes, puts them out there, and he's like, it's like a little hub for thinking. And it's not fair on people because people work their arse off to get these exclusives and things like that. And he rips them just for the retweets and stuff like that. And he thinks it's right. And I completely disagree with it. And I'm not on my own with that. I know a lot of people.
I agree. I agree with you, Ozzy.
Yeah, it's bang out of order. Like I said, it is not a difficult sport to get quotes from. People will talk to you, whether it's over a direct message on Twitter, they'll do a Skype interview with you. It is not hard at all. People speak to, and he works for a fucking national, so he's even got a reputable like organisation behind him to get interviews and things like that from him.
Yeah, but he can sit there all week as well, just doing that, gathering all the news, gathering everybody, and then he doesn't have to quote anybody or link to us. Whereas I'm going to go see Josh Warrington in the week. I'm going to have to drive 30, 40 minutes to see him, spend all day there, and then he just fucking takes my quote and uses it, and he gets all his retweets. Nobody fucking knows who I am. It's a piss take.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it isn't fair on people. Like I said, a lot of the people that do these things do it in the spare time. So they'll hold down a job and then they'll do like stories for like boxing scene or something like that, where they go out, get their interviews themselves, and then only to be ripped off by other people who either don't have the contacts or don't want the contacts, because it's easier to be a cut and paste job and get all the retweets themselves. Isn't fair. So he's my nomination.
I just
so
found
you actually
another gem of a nomination just by going on to boxing scene right now.
Go on.
So apparently Danny Garcia says I need a mental break from boxing. The motherfucker hasn't fought since March 4th of last year.
This is the guy who wants. This is the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy.
That's like Tyson Fury saying I need a bit of a break from boxing.
But that counts as active in PBC land.
This is a guy who once said I pride myself on fighting like the old school fighters. Like me, I can't. Fucking Duran fought like fucking something like what? Since winning a world title, something like 17 times in so many fucking years. That cunt's fucking fought like 4 times in the last 5. The fucking lazy bastard.
Right, we'll put him in twice then. So Ozzy, sorry, you're actually going for Michael Benson as your nomination, yeah?
100%, yes.
Right,
I was
okay.
going to go for WBA, but then Donny came in with that anal correspondence, and it was absolutely fucking gold. And if I kind of bit Donny, then I'll go for Del Boswani.
I don't know whether to go for the WBC or for Al Bernstein. I think I'll go for Al Bernstein. What about you, Donny? Who are you going for?
Oh, I'm definitely going for anal Al Bernstein.
Anal Bernstein.
By the way, if Brazzers don't title a video that soon, they're dropping the ball, aren't they?
Are you going for anal as well, Rob?
Yeah, going for Bernstein. Go for Bernstein.
Ben, what about you?
You could just imagine when he's sitting there with his dick out wanking off to the pictures.
I mean, it's
a shame because I was been on the show before. I didn't want to hate on our. We've all done it. We've all done it, guys. We've all had a porn magazine out and beat the meat for fucking 5 seconds, 10 minutes, or whatever, and that. Or if you get a false call, you sweat like a rapist trying to get the fucking. You try to power through with a semi sometimes, and that. You know, it happens. It happens to the best of us. We've all done it.
Reminds me of a good joke on a new Chappelle special where he said he knew he was getting old, where he just gave up in the middle of one.
Yeah.
I've done that one.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ozzy because Benson pisses me off as well. It's not fair. I have to fucking take my days off and go away from my family to do that shit, and then he's not quite referencing it properly. It's a piss take.
Well, it's a formality, unfortunately, this time for old Al Bernstein, but well done to Mr. Benson as well for getting nominated. Thanks to everybody who's jumped on tonight. It's been a good show, giving their money's worth, Andy, this week.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I mean, if you've not applied to the Patreon account, you must do it. Good content coming up on there. You get to listen to the preview show, the preview of the 2018. Some good stuff dropping in there as well, and we'll be reviewing some of a modern day classic fight in the next coming weeks, I would imagine.
Yep, and plenty of punches from the past and all that as well. So, as Andy says, get on there. Don't forget to leave a rating and review on iTunes as well. It's January 2018, so nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Thank you for everyone who's jumped on tonight. Thank you to Ozzy, to Rob Kelly, to Andy Patterson, to Donny, and to Ben. Great to have Ben on with us as well. I've been Steve Wellings. We shall speak to you all next week. Cheers for listening. Bye.
Good luck.